Greetings in Lakesh family. I am your Kin 25. I will facilitate today's Amplify Your Purpose on this Kin 90. Please indicate in the chat if I'm being heard. Yes, we are ready to begin this love session on this white dog. It is amazing how we are progressing through this cycle, through this session, just through this energy of the summer solstice. You are on the Synchronistic Human StreamYard, and if you have any issues, you could just indicate in the chat or log in and log out. As you can see in front of you, ALCIONE will be presenting today. Let me enlarge this so I can read it. Yes, she will help us remember how to apply the following. Amplify your purpose while living in the new time. Love is the universal synthesizer. Yes, it is. So yeah, if you can see all these icons on the screen, there's a mic, there's where you can raise your hand and ask a question, and there is the chat. So yes, give thanks. We normally start our sessions with the prayer of the 7 galactic directions. And like I used to say, and Aisha says now, to learn this, put it on your refrigerator, put it on your screensaver, and teach it to your grandchildren or your children, and have it as your personal prayer in your arsenal of spiritual work. So now we will hear the prayer of the 7 galactic directions.
From the East, House of Light, may wisdom dawn in us, so we may see all things in clarity. From the North, House of Night, may wisdom ripen in us, so we may know all from within. From the West, House of Transformation, may wisdom be transformed into right action, so we may do what must be done. From the South, House of the Eternal Sun, may right action reap the harvest, so we may enjoy the fruits of planetary being. From above, House of Heaven, where star people and ancestors gather, may their blessings come to us now. From below, House of Earth, may the heartbeat of her crystal core bless us with harmonies to end all war. From the center, galactic source, which is everywhere at once, may everything be known as the light of mutual love. Ayun Hunaku Eva Maya E Ma Ho. Ayun Hunaku Eva Maya E Ma Ho. Ayun Hunaku Eva Maya E Ma Ho. All hail the harmony of mind and nature.
Wow. Yes, that is beautiful. Whether sung or spoken, with captions or without, learn your 7 galactic prayer of the 7 galactic directions. Yes. Welcome to Amplify Your Purpose. We want to give thanks to the source of all creation, the earth, the ancestors, our star elders, the foundation for the law of time, the Jewel University of Immortal Sciences, Melanin 6, our master teachers, our mimic priesthood, and the indigenous. Ashe, Ashe, which includes all of us and our ancestors. So we give thanks. Yes, I am your sister Tahita, Tupac L, your kin 25, your red crystal serpent, and I am honored to facilitate today. I do want you to listen for me on Monday nights on 89.3 FM WRFG. It is the same grand radio station that our Baba Wanik Shabazz facilitates his program, Map Time Jazz. And he'll be on tonight at midnight. Listen for me, 10 p.m. on Monday nights, 10 p.m. to midnight. Thank you. Yes, indeed, amplify your purpose while living in the new time. Yes, every Sunday we're here at 10:30, so it gives you a time to invite your friends, your family, your children, your grandchildren, anybody you meet who may be interested in this information. You do not want to neglect inviting them, so we can raise our numbers and advance what we do here. We have some amazing teachers and presenters and facilitators that really need, and we need you to help us get the word out. Love is a universal synthesizer. And ALCIONE FREDERICK, she is our white magnetic world bridger, kin 66, will, wow, what does that say? She's a solar report facilitator. I can hardly see that word because of the stars and everything, but yeah, you will remember how to apply the following: disrupt the systematic programming. You'll be able to access higher states of consciousness and keys to prospering in the new time. And yes, it is a portal day, Gregorian date 6/22, the year 2025. White crystal dog. It is a crystal day. Yes, universal love. It's amazing. One of the best gifts that gifts that can be given to you is to be able to exercise full authority over your whole mind with all its faculties and dimensions. And that is Neb Taharka, a quote by Neb Taharka, a page out of his book. And we are going to be doing our best while he is on his rest time, his hiatus. That's our beloved Kin 239. The definition of the synchronistic human is defined someone, someone who is able to be multidimensional while unifying energy from the synchronicities of natural time cycles toward the holonomic evolution of humanity, Mother Earth, and the galactic whole. That is so amazing because instances like this can happen every moment of your life. The synchronicities, the coincidences, the deja vu, it all happens all the time with our dreams and in our waking dream as well. So, yeah, always look for the synchronicities because that is what life is about. When you need help, it's there. When you need the bill paid, it's paid. When you think of someone, they call. It is amazing. It's amazing. And that's our natural way. Ashe. We got some upcoming announcements and events. And I believe Ken 34 will be talking about those announcements. Our very own wizard. She is my planetary partner. Tatiana will read the announcements. Thank you so much.
Peace. Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. Shout out to Mama Taida. Ken 25, like you said, my planetary partner, the red crystal serpent, as it is a crystal day, a beautiful day ahead of us, a great plasma ahead of us. I remember her dynamic energy from the past portals workshop. I know it'll be coming up in the future, but if you were there in the past, it was a time to be had. So I'm grateful to be sharing the stage with you this plasma. All right. Peace and love connections. The portal is open. And how you doing? Okay. Welcome to Gamma. Okay. I want to express my gratitude to be reunited with you on this plasma in the last heptad or week, if you are new, of this moon, one moon closer to the next solar year. We made it, and I'm loving that for us. Okay. So let's just move right along. I am Tatiana, as previously introduced, Kin 134, and I embody the white self-existing wizard. And my signature reads, I define in order to enchant, measuring receptivity, I seal the output of timelessness with the self-existing tone of form, and I am guided by the power of hearts. Yeah, go ahead. You already know it's a heart day, a dog day. For those of you that are wondering exactly what that signature means, for those that are new here, take your time. And even if you are not new here and you're still learning, this is what we are uncovering together. It is like a new language. We're decoding hidden messages that are in plain sight sometimes, little subliminals, and remembering the forgotten to evolve together. So I continue to gather these insights, each plasma. And if you have yet to, I would suggest even downloading an app like 1320, which gives you a little more insight so you can educate yourself each plasma. And don't underestimate your curiosity. You'll never know the connections you will make and those synchronicities that will appear. Okay. So, neighbors and community, do you know your kin? All right, maybe we have some new kin with us today. So I would like you to introduce yourselves in the chat. Don't be shy. Even if this is your second time with us, one thing for sure that this group is, they're not shy. They are here to welcome you, and you will leave feeling connected, empowered, and encouraged. Okay, so go ahead and say hey in the chat so we know who you are, so we can holler at you. Okay. All right. I know y'all are anticipating this message, so let's slide into the announcements at level 1. I know you came here with this premise of evolving in the new time, but how do you plan on doing that without leveling up? Okay. These are levels to it. So the level 1 is the Infinite Aligned Memory Membership. Infinite Aligned Memory Membership, also known as the I Am membership. And this membership is a passport into uncharted territory. Okay, so you want to get your stamps as you go with those different courses you take and different activities that we have evolved. So now, for me, I found it as a pathway that has activated higher consciousness and connecting with the community of beings that are supporting you along the way. And there is no investment like the one we can make for ourselves. Am I wrong? Now, if health is your wealth, then knowledge is your currency. Right now, it is best to invest in your knowledge. And I would highly recommend you consider our annual membership, which is the gift that just keeps on giving. You literally save $99 annually. Okay. And there's more. The annual membership includes monthly exclusives. You have one free class per year and 50% off of courses. 50% off of courses is truly a generous offer. Additionally, there is a moonly/monthly offering for $33 a moon or every 4 heptads or weeks with 25% off of classes. That's 25% off of the moonly membership. If you become a fan and you are a fan of our content, just wait, because you'll have the ability to leverage this information 24/7, 365 at your convenience through the portal, which you will be able to access the replays and special sessions, just like New Kin Orientation, Sync Talk, as well as exclusive online and real life meetups. This is a great time to tap in. And as you heard, we will be able to refocus more things on this membership specifically. So there's going to be exclusive content that is made just for you, and that you can have more access to our our professor, our teacher, our chancellor, Nebsa Harka, with that information. And that way we can learn and grow together. All right. Now, with level 2, you'll be in sessions just like this one. Amplify Your Purpose, our fellowship for each heptad curated for I Am members. But now this one is open. We open just one plasma each moon. So this is your opportunity to invite your friends, your family, your loved ones, and those that are curious. So together we navigate each moon dedicated to our evolution. And we reconnect here each gamma through the remainder of the solar cycle. Now, for those of you that are new, you're like, what is she talking about? What is gamma? Gamma is the equivalent of Sunday this year. So this is the section of the week that we are dedicating to our third eye, so we can see beyond, but also we can collectively come together and enjoy sessions just like this. Okay. So now this is where you'll have a time to be connected with our dynamic hosts, like Mama Tahita, as well as Nebsa Harka, Ken 239, Moon Goddess Ambrosia, Ken 181, and ALCIONE Frederick, Ken 66. You will see the amazing faces of our team members while our fearless leader prepares the tribe for the next solar cycle. In the meantime, all right, we want to affirm wellness for Nebsa Harka, and you'll hear much more from him. And you'll hear much more about how you can reconnect with him live very soon. And these sessions will be open to the public again once a moon. So if this is the time where you don't have an IM membership, you want to be inviting some more people so they can figure out how to get one. All right. Moving along to level 3. The summer registration is open. So our live self-study courses have began. The summer's semesters include subjects of natural 4D time, the Hollow Mind Perceiver 5D. Consider becoming an I Am annual member. As I mentioned before, you can get 50% off of 50% credited towards your course work, and that's for the 4D and 5D courses, as well as the Moonly members, which get 25% off of the 4D 5D courses. And shout out to Nebsa Harka again and all the hardworking assistant instructors. Your contributions have created an environment that most colleges and universities don't offer. Yes, you heard it here. You will not get this in your traditional university setting. You know, they actually are trying to pay people to teach them these things. Okay. So you get to walk away with skills that are irreplaceable. Okay. There's been 21 foundational semesters and it has only gotten better with time. I personally joined back in September of 2024, and I'm still being able to learn new things each and every day. These are powerful concepts and tools that we're being able to learn. So, you know, it's supported me in my own personal leveling up, and I know it's going to be able to do the same for you. Now you'll be able to have access to the replays and see how these courses can also help you support finding synchronicities in your personal experience. Okay. So join us. You can see the dates. You can screenshot that and visit the website that has been dropped in the chat so that you can get direct access on how to register for the summer term. Okay. The level 4, the group coaching, step into the new solar year with some clarity, purpose, and synchronicity guiding your path. All right. These will be 2 group sessions. And as you see, one has already passed on June 19th, and the next one will be coming up on June 26th at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And during this time, you'll be able to craft your master plan for the upcoming solar cycle of evolution. In the last 5 years, Nebsa Harka has accumulated over 1,200 coaching hours. And although I might say that fairly calmly, that's a lot of time. Okay. So we're dealing with a master of the craft. And obviously we know that he ain't new to this, but he is true to this. And I was able to join on Juneteenth. And I just want to share with you how powerful it was to get like a step-by-step practical insight on how to integrate the cosmology to support what you're creating. And of course, this is open and has been open to those that are members and those that are not members. But I can definitely say for those that are transitioning and those that are also already within the coursework, to see how we can integrate the 13 moon calendar in and the cosmology to prepare for a year in advance. Nebtaharka continues to share with us his personal experience on how dynamic it has been in his own way to plan ahead what he has done in the spectral moon, which would have been last month, and all the experiences that he's been able to do now, especially as he's away and getting stronger, has only been able to be made possible. People always ask, like, how are you able to do all these things? How are you able to catch up? Now you will get a little bit of insight on how to do that for yourself. So this is the time. And there are replays available to those that sign up, and you can still register to my understanding. You'll see exactly in the chat we have right there. It's not too late. You want to hop in and get this information because we are really going into very interesting times. If you have been aware of many things that are going on in our society. So it's the time. And I just want to say, yeah, there's exclusive pricing for members, and there will be $59 for members and Moonly members. Excuse me, I am members that have annual memberships are $59, and Moonly members are $78. For non-members, it's $99, and you can go ahead and sign up today so you can see where you can hop in on a wizard day. All right, so you can get in touch with your timelessness, because we will be moving in the time, and you want to be able to connect things together, something that's going to help you beyond where you are today. All right, or on this plasma. Level 5. On level 5, we have the one-on-one synchronistic coaching. As I mentioned before, how do you have your lifetime access with Nebtaharka? As you see, we're going through this experience where you can be able to shift your mindset and have value tailored support to your needs on one-to-one synchronistic coaching. So this can be a tool for you specifically that is made for you with you in mind. And these sessions are designed to support your personal, spiritual, and professional life. Okay. Those many bodies of our own experience. Numerous testimonials have been expressed, and the benefits of these personalized sessions include those transformative experiences that followed. So please see our website for more information, thesynchronistichuman.com, and fill out the form so you can align around the best arrangement for your personal needs at this time. All right, you can see in the chat the registration for one-to-one coaching. All right, this is our premier event, Calling All Connections, the Day at a Time event. Right now, we're in the planning stages, and we're getting closer and closer to the event. Can you believe it? All right, I am still kind of like flabbergasted. Kin 178, the White Solar Mirror, Priest Mut Mayat Nefer Habibullah is our amazing organizer. So you want to mark your calendar for the next session on June 28th for the planning. All right, your ideas will make this a record-breaking event, And the countdown, like I mentioned, is getting closer. We're only a moon away. So email Ken178 ayogini9@synchronistichuman.com for details, questions, feedback, and we'll see you on the 28th. Hey, yeah, I know you're already feeling aligned and encouraged. All right. This is the 5th level, and I already got you seeing synchronicities through telepathy. And I know where you're going to be next gamma. All right. I know you're going to be right here. All right. Maybe not in the same place, but of course, at the same time, amplify your purpose, hop back in. And on Kin 97, the topic is charting the course for your evolution. If you've been enjoying the vibes and this information, then set your notifications and sign up for our newsletter to hop back in on the next gamma. Okay. Don't forget, this is the time where I ask you to pull out your phones. You already know what time it is. You already know what time it is. It's not only showtime, but it is the right time. The right time to pull out your phone. Follow us if you have yet to on IG, TikTok, Facebook. Like and share and comment. And then also subscribe on YouTube. As you can see, we are under Neb_Taharka to find the content. And all the above is free 99. That is free 99. And the comments and shares help the algorithm reach more people just like yourself. So we're already giving thanks in advance for any of you who have taken those steps and those that continue to spread the word. You know, if you're new and you found us online, this is a way to ensure that you keep seeing our content on your timeline so you can find something refreshing to relate to or to share. All right. Share your socials in the chat. Donations. I want to call out our new members and patrons. As a patron, you are supporting, maintaining, innovating, growing, and expanding the mission. And you're welcome to contribute to this excellence. All donations can be made out to the Blue Storm on Cash App. Don't forget the $sign. And you can also use PayPal link. So please go ahead and follow those links to be able to donate today, as you see in the chat. It takes a village, and no donation is too small to make a difference. So much gratitude in advance, and may it multiply. Peace. I am Tatiana Kin 134. It was a pleasure sharing the mic with dope folks, and I thank you for your time, your ears, your eyes, and most importantly, your heart on this preliminary dog day of summer. It is valuable that we capture the essence of this moment as we set the vision for how we dedicate ourselves to all that is and all we are, pure love. And I just want to affirm as I close out, today serves as a reminder just to let you know how to let that love flow in so we can all take it with us around the world for us all to benefit. And I'm passing the mic back to Ken 25. Mama Tahita, take it away. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tatiana. Now, we got to connect if you're here in Atlanta and you have been officially promoted. You probably can do the whole facilitation yourself. So we're going to upgrade you, okay? You're worthy and you're capable, and we love you. Thank you. Thank you so much for your energy and just being precise and concise and exciting. So, yes, indeedy, you enchant us when you read. And I can't see the chat, but I'm hoping that people that I invited are here, and I hope that everybody on the call, everybody on this session who's been on here a year or less or more, we can start to invite. Yeah, invite. Just like inundate them with your links, okay? So they'll eventually come in, and anybody who was in the chat, just put your city, where you're logging in from, and of course, who invited you. Thank the messenger. Thank your inviter. Yep. And I am Kin 25. I dedicate in order to thrive. Universalizing instinct. I seal the store of life force with the crystal tone of navigation. I am guided by the power of navigation. The crystal tone. Wow, I forgot my whole. I am Kin 25. I dedicate in order to thrive. Universalizing instinct. I seal the store of life force with the crystal tone of navigation. There it is. Got to bring it back. And that takes practice. So if you do not know your kin number and you are new, you can definitely put your birthday in the chat, or get back with the person who invited you and they will give you your kin number. So yes, if you're logged in, big up. Anywhere in the world that you are, if you're in a different time zone, we are glad and excited to have you. Thank you. We are in the crystal moon of dedication, universality, and I am a crystal, so yes, I dedicate in order to thrive. And that is the 12th tone, and we are in the 12th moon, and the symbol or the totem animal is the rabbit. And we started the crystal moon on May 30th, and we will go until June 26, and then the 13th tone will be the cosmic moon. So if you know your tones, you know your moons. And the question we should be asking ourselves daily during the crystal moon is, how can I dedicate myself to all that lives? Wow, that is a prayer or affirmation. Just saying that. That is beautiful. And you can also download this calendar so that you can keep up with each day, each portal, each plasma, each wave spell. If you go to the lawofTime.org, there is a PDF that you can download and print out in full color so that you can begin to track it, because that's what we want you to do. In between showing up to these sessions, we want you to be able to track time. I have a sister friend. She's Ken. I believe she's Ken 185. I'm not sure if she's on the line. Katswana. She texted me one day. She was like, you invited me to these calls and I really liked it. I'm really feeling it. Is today your galactic signature? I was like, yes. She said, well, I've been tracking it. I'm reading it. I see the Gregorian date, So yes, we want you to have that same revelation if you're new. We can all do this together with consistency, with a little daily practice. So we are on Gamma today, I believe Tatiana said. Yeah, that's a Sunday. So for this year, Gamma is on a Sunday. So these symbols up top that says Delhi, Sally, Gamma, Cali, Alpha, Limi, Celio. Instead of saying the days of the week, we have these symbols that represent your chakra centers, points in your brain, in your anatomy, in mudras, in affirmations. So there is levels to this cosmic information. So if you look at it daily, you begin to uncover your truths, your synchronicity. And this is such an auspicious day because we are in the crystal moon and in a crystal plasma. So the things, the daily habits that you do will begin to stick and become immortal with you. So meeting on a crystal day is an amazing thing, starting a new habit and releasing a habit. Like you released it on a spectral day and you imprint something better on this court of kin plasma. So if you look at the screen in front of you, which you've been doing, we are on, let me find dog. I see 70. Yes, 84, 87, 90. Yes, it's outlined in green and a master number, June 22nd. Happy summer solstice. And bringing this energy in is powerful. So we're on Kin 90, Crystal Dog. Yes. This is a look at all of the tones from magnetic to cosmic. Crystal is the 12th tone, so it's highlighted in green. This is a harmonic standard, a perpetual 13 moon calendar. So by tracking this and following this, it's like a daily oracular divination for yourself. Things will start to unfold. Do take some of the classes if you can, or whoever you're invited to the call, ask them to maybe do a one-on-one with you to help you understand some of these concepts. Moon Goddess Kin 181 does do a new kin overview that will give you a little more insight, but with some self-study and coming to these calls on Sunday, you'll be able to know more and have more on board by this time next moon or even next year. So you know your tones. You got magnetic, lunar, electric. Self-existing is 4. Overtone is your 5th. Rhythmic is 6. 7 is your resonant tone. 8th is galactic. 9 is solar. 10 is planetary. That's the easy one because the word 10 is right inside planetary. Spectral is the 11th moon. That's the moon we just came out of, the moon of release. And we are in the crystal moon. We are solidifying daily practices, habits, rituals. And the 13th moon is the cosmic moon. The 13th tone is the cosmic tone. So you see the overlay in the synchronicity there. Keep showing up, keep reading your tones. Like when I'm exercising, I'm not saying 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I'm saying magnetic, lunar, electric, self-existing, and overtone. And that gets it in my system. Okay. And that's a good way to teach the children too. They remember it like that. Thank you. Yes, amplify your purpose. This is a picture of the Zolkin, the 260-day galactic cycle, Zolkin spiritual calendar of cosmic memory. As you can see, right under step 2, it says 20 solar seals, dynamic frequencies of light. So these are the seals that you want to become familiar with. You can see the one highlighted in green. We're actually on the one right under it. We're on the dog, and you can go over to 90, and we're on the crystal. It's that white line here. You see the crystal tone. It has the 2 bars and the 2 dots. Yes, so I have this blowed up in my bedroom so I can look at it in the morning. I can meditate, and you can walk it like a calendar, like a synchronometer. Walk the 13 moon calendar. And the green symbol right in the middle, which looks like a butterfly, a DNA strand, or a spiral, are our portal days. And we got some portals coming up. We got the serpent portals coming up soon. So get to know this, because this can also be downloaded on the lawoftime.org website, right? You want to know your 13 tones, your 20 archetypes, and how the interplay is you. I'm a mixture of the 5th tone, the 5th archetype, which is serpent, and I'm the 12th tone. So I'm crystal serpent. Easy as that. Keep showing up. Take a class if you will, or just get back with the person who invited you, and they'll be able to help you out as well. Shay. This is the Blue Storm Wave Spell. We are in the thick of the Blue Storm Wave Spell, and it started out with storm. So whatever the wave spell starts out with, you got it by your own power double. It's magnetic. You can tell it's a transformative wave spell because it starts out with blue. And we have more blue archetypes in this wave spell. So we had the magnetic storm, and we go down to sun, which is our lunar sun, because that's the 2nd tone. We had electric birth right here. That's the dragon. And we had a little baby born on that day here in Atlanta. I believe his name was Chance, and he was born on Kin 81. His mother was actually on life support. They considered her brain dead, but wanted to keep her alive for Chance's birth. Look at that. Wow. And so the next tone, that's a wind, and that's the archetype of the wind and the high priestess, communication, and that tone is self-existing. We have, I believe that's the night, or Akbal, and that's another blue transformative archetype, and that came in at the overtone tone. The next one, we have our rhythmic seed, our resonant serpent right there in the middle. Now I know what High Priestess talks about when she says that the serpent amplifies or is resonant with the blue storm. She says that. It's like, wow, when you look at the wave spell, whatever that middle tone is, it really accentuates or channels that energy. So yeah, big ups to King 85. And then we had 86, our World Bridger right there, Baba Wanique, and Pendant and others. And my granddaughter, Zerai, is Ken 86, my recent graduate. Big ups to her. That was galactic, and that galactic tone lets us know what the previous wave spell was, okay? Yeah. And then we got the blue hand of accomplishment, knowing, and healing. galactic, what was that? Lunar, galactic, solar, and planetary. I believe that's planetary. Or you can put it in the chat. Is that solar? Solar 9. Uh-huh. And then we got the star coming up right there. We have, I believe that's planetary. That is number 10. And then we moved on to our red moon, which is Moloch. Beautiful, beautiful cycles of Moloch, the moon. And that was spectral. And then we're on crystal. Because you got spectral is 11. Crystal is your 12th tone. So we are on the tone 12, which is crystal, and the dog, which is the 10th archetype, I believe. So, and then we end up on tomorrow on our monkey. Wow, our monkey, our cosmic monkey, Kin 91. That's when I'm going to be on the air. Another plug again, WRFG 89.3 FM. 10 p.m. to midnight. So that is a beautiful caption of the Blue Storm wave spell. Yeah, I'm going to get the t-shirt. I want some t-shirts with the wave spells on it. So once you get familiar with your tones and your archetypes, you can see the interplay of the energies for each plasma. Thank you. So today's galactic signature, I'm not sure if anybody else is reading, if Aisha wants to bring up someone who can raise their hand and read, but we're in the Blue Storm wave spell based on the 260-day sacred cycle, Kin 90 white crystal dog. I shed to the crystal tones. I dedicate in order to love, universalizing loyalty. I seal the process of heart with the crystal tone of cooperation. I am guided by the power of spirit. Wow, 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 wow. Crystal tone. Whenever there's a crystal tone that's leading, there's going to be the lunar tone in the emotional body. Wow. Blue Storm wave spell, Kin 90, white crystal dog. We dedicate in order to love, universalizing loyalty. We seal the process of heart with the crystal tone of cooperation. We are guided by the power of spirit. Yeah, we're guided by spirit, a breath and communication. We're showing up as the crystal moon. Wow. And our antipod or our challenge and gift is the crystal sun. And in our emotional body is the lunar monkey. Ashe. You get to know your affirmation, read it daily in the morning and in the evening, as well as the affirmation for each divine plasma. Ashe. The compassionate one. Yep. 10. The archetype, the 10th archetype is the dog, right? The compassionate one. I am the compassionate one, coded by the white dog. 10 is my number complete. I am the ageless comforter, the loyal one. Love is my law. Wise am I in the ways of empathetic knowing. From my 2 hands of light, I radiate goodwill to all beings in all kingdoms. I raise my right hand, palm open and free, no secrets in me. In the absence of fear, there is nothing to hide. All heart, patience, and kindness. This is the deepest. All pervading, universal wisdom. Nothing exists that is not an expression of this all embracing love. For love is the manifest flower of compassion. To know me is to remember that love is the light that holds the dreaming together. Ashe. Take a moment and meditate on that. The compassionate one. And yes, we have our facilitator for this version of Amplify Your Purpose, our very own ALCIONE FREDERICK, our white magnetic world bridger, Ken 66 of HELIOPHYSICS and Solar Report facilitator. Thank you so much. You take it away, ALCIONE.
Great. Thank you so much, Sister Tahita. Welcome, everyone. I am ALCIONE FREDERICK, Kin 66, the White Magnetic World Bridger. I unify in order to equalize, attracting opportunity. I seal the store of death with the magnetic tone of purpose. I am guided by the store of death, my own power doubled. As a world bridger, we store information. I call us, we are like the librarians, the cosmic librarians. And so I store information, but I also, being a world bridger, I help connect you all with the information that you need. It will be a benefit to you for your growth and evolution, in addition to being a part of wonderful spaces like this to help us create bridges to each other. And so it's my pleasure and honor to be with you today. We definitely have quite a bit of information to speak about. And so I'm going to go ahead and proceed with sharing my screen. And we have a few videos that we're going to get through, about 3, which I have sped up the speed so that we can ensure that we have enough time to get through it. And so I'm going to go, I'm sharing my, be careful, screen audio there. Okay, got it. Hold up. Let me stop sharing. I don't need to share my audio for this piece, but I'll share my audio for the next. Let me go ahead and get that going. And yes, all right. We're good to go. Perfect. And let me make sure we are on presentation mode. Excellent. All right, y'all. And so recognizing that usually we, for those of you who are part of the IM membership, we do these behind a paywall, but this session is available to the public and will be on YouTube. And so feel free to share, and hopefully it'll engage others who may be interested in learning about this cosmology. And so with that being said, I know that we've got folks who've been with us for a while, but I'm going to be a little bit more thorough in sharing the information so that those who are new to the information are able to grasp it. And so we are currently in solar cycle 25. For over 200 years, the international science community has been mapping the activity of the sun. And it's important because unfortunately, we do not discuss enough here in the United States just how critical our awareness of the sun and its activities are important, because it influences us. And so for those of you who encountered issues with your shortwave radio, issues with your GPS, the Elon Musk satellites have been taking a big hit from the sun and the solar weather as well too. This affects everything on our planet. And we do have our critical infrastructure operators through NASA, NOAA, and the international community who are actively monitoring the solar weather. We actually just last December, the very first, some of the very first satellites that only study the sun went up. And the Parker Solar Probe is one of those examples of those satellites that actually made its closest orbit to the sun. And that happened just at the end of last year as well too. The sun is about 93 million miles away, but it's close enough, and the amount of the plasma, the solar flares, which are high energy photons and electromagnetic radiation. Plasma is essentially the fourth state of matter. It is ionized gas. Coronal mass ejections are hot plasma and chunks of the sun being hurled at us. All of this, like comes at us at like millions of miles per second. And so it gets here really pretty quickly in the matter of a day or so, depending upon whether or not we are geo-effective. And what that means is that if you, you'll see a picture of today's sun in just a moment. What that means is that we are, when you look at the picture of the sun, we are effectively located near the middle of the sun. All right. So when we have sunspots and solar activity that come from the middle of the sun, it's going to hit us pretty much head on. And one of the beautiful things about our planet is that she generates electromagnetic fields through the turning of the liquid iron core in the middle of the planet that creates this magnetic field that protects us from the brunt of those emissions from the sun. However, when you have the level of solar activity that you have during the solar maximums, that we don't get spared, that we definitely get a lot of energy our way. And the energy is not only for, it's just part of the process, but it's here to effectively help us evolve and grow. We unfortunately, we do not learn here in the United States much about our connection to the sun and the greater solar system. For a long time, the science was like, oh, Earth operates in its own little orbit. It's not affected by anybody else. And again, I think that's part of the issues that we have when we have hegemonic worldviews who believe themselves to be supreme or to be the only ones, the only special ones, right, and stuff, and that they're not in a relationship to anybody else. And we see every single day that our Earth and what's occurring on the planet is letting us know that that is not true in any way, shape, or form. But according to the law of time, sunspots and its processes, the solar flares, the coronal mass ejections, are carriers of information from different star systems. They affect the electromagnetic fields, creating a mental quickening or shifts in consciousness. Changes in the sun directly affect our biology and consciousness. People are feeling tired. Part of it is that we have to speak to our bodies and also engage in practices that allow us to have more vitality in our bodies, but we also have to kind of speak to our bodies and give it permission and give it instructions to, hey, it's all right. We can take in this new information, this new plasma, to help us evolve and grow. And so, we have that ability to be able to speak to ourselves and to, especially speaking life over ourselves through our words and through our intention and our consciousness. And this is part of what this kind of accelerated activity that's happening and occurring is helping us, is facilitating us to do. And so solar flares tunes us to the consciousness of light that is expanding. And this is a diagram that I've created to kind of showcase. And so we've got it on the 5D, the ionic gas and ether, right, that we were receiving. And then on a radial plasma, which is we study the law of time, which is natural time. And as Sister Tahita had showcased about how we have 13 moons in a calendar year, which is 13 moons or 13 months of 28 days, and then the day out of time celebration, which is coming up. And by following the calendar that is in alignment with our Earth and our solar system, it allows us to be able to be receptive to these energies coming in. First and foremost, having a language to be able to understand it and render it visible, right? And interestingly enough, today is the plasma that we are receiving right now supports our third eye. So it's about expanding the perimeter of our awareness, because the more words we have in our brain, right, the more ideas and concepts, the more we're able to see, right? And so this is what's the beauty about engaging in the law of time, because number one, you're connected with the Earth and the solar system. And then number two, the prison planet systems and the cosmologies of control that are running amok on the planet and stuff, you have a bit of a buffer from that as you engage in it. And we're going to showcase why. But so we receive solar plasma. There's the radial plasma. As I mentioned, today is a gamma day. And so we're receiving information to support us in our vision. It's connecting with our third eye, coming through the crown and connecting with the third eye. And then there's the human plasma, the cerebrospinal fluid, and our blood has plasma, right? And this is all helping to facilitate evolutionary changes on the DNA level. Why? Because as the Hermetic principles speak, as within, so without, as above, so below, and then also the all is mental, right? So again, what we have in our brains allows us to be able to expand the perimeter of our thinking, not only about ourselves, but also our planet and what can be, and we'll get into that. And so essentially, there's this idea of we live in a holonomic universe. And so a holon is anything that is simultaneously a whole as well as a part of a greater whole. We are wholes as part of and parts of greater wholes. And so that's another thing of just, again, recognizing that we're not without, right? We have everything within as long as we connect with the divine absolute, which we come from and will ultimately continue return back to. And so for June, we had a lot of activity. May, there was a little bit of a lull, but there was kind of a spike that occurred. And so right here, what we do is that we have the kin, and then we also have the Gregorian dates. And as you will see at the beginning of the month, it was really kind of like the end of May, beginning of June, we ended up having some coronal mass ejections that were pretty strong that resulted in a series of some moderate to severe. We had some for those of you who may be new to what geomagnetic storms are, there is a scale, and G5 is the most intense. We had a G5 solar storm last May in 2024 that electrified the entire ground. And that's essentially what happened. Something very similar happened to that, but it wasn't as extreme as a G5, but it was right under from a G4 to G2 happened at the beginning of this month, and it ended up lasting for a couple of days. And so until about, it started to kind of subside on June 3rd. And then the other piece that we have is that you'll have these coronal holes that will open up on the sun, and they look dark when you look at a picture of the sun. And essentially these are like open areas where solar wind comes at us, and the solar wind is like 700 kilometers per second. You all can do the math to kind of put that into miles, but essentially it's just like I'm kind of there's also different phenomenon that happens and occurs that can make this wind come to us much faster. And because around the equinoxes and stuff, there's kind of breaks in our electromagnetic field and stuff. And so these solar winds are able to get in, and our Earth's electromagnetic field is not able to kind of push them off in different ways. And so it's amazing because we're just, there is a, whole entire community that's dedicated to, doing this research, which is, again, part of what's so scary about the cuts to the funding of the National Science Foundation that's been happening, because these are events that can completely take us off grid. And so the information I'm sharing with you is from NASA, from NOAA, who are all the ones doing this research so that they can, if necessary, turn off the grid so that we don't get fried and then we're back in the dark ages. Because we're up here thinking that technology is going to save us and stuff. A good old coronal mass ejection like the Carrington event that happened, or the Carrington event happened in the late 1800s. The Montreal was in the 1980s and stuff. It could take us out because we haven't been investing in our infrastructure. And so this is how critical this information is. And so I'll be mindful not to get on too much of my little soapbox about things, but this is really important. And I just, give so much praise and give so many, send so much peace and blessings to those who are doing this work and sharing it with us. And so one thing that I did want to make, because given the times and what has occurred as of late, and I have noticed, and I will get into this because our conversation today is love is the universal synthesizer, and the divine feminine is the embodiment of that. And there is a intentional attack on the divine feminine. So if you look at Kin 81, that was Friday the 13th. We know that 13th is not an unlucky number. It is a number that's associated with the feminine. For those who are menstruating people or menstruating women, they we tend to have 13, menstrual cycles in a year because it's part of the lunar calendar. And then Friday is connected to the goddess Freya. It is also connected to the planet Venus, which is the embodiment of the divine feminine. So for those of you who joined us at my last week, where we went into into a deeper discussion, you'll know that it was like a triple divine feminine day on Friday the 13th, and that was when Israel did its first attack on Iran. And I have we'll watch some videos where we'll kind of showcase a little bit about this. What I'm speaking to is that it's about the destruction of care. And unfortunately, you've got people who engage in rituals to kill the care within them so that they can do atrocities here on the planet. But we'll get to that in a moment. But we are coming right now. We are in the year of the divine masculine. And on July 26th of this year, we will be going into the next galactic year, which is the year of the divine feminine. And so again, I think that this is all very intentional. That's what's my spirit speaking with me, and I'm going to share with you today. And so we did have some additional activity. We've got some really big sunspots that are making its debut. And so they're numbered every time. And some of these are the same sunspots. They'll rotate. So we got the sun that faces us, but then they'll spend 2 weeks on the far side of the sun. And when they come back around, they get a new number. But a lot of them are still very, very active. And so even though they go on the far side of the sun and stuff, they could pop right back up and start to continue to send out more solar emissions. And so that's what has been happening really with Sunspot AR 414, which let me actually showcase. Let me go back one and stuff. Let me go back to so that you all can see. So AR 414, as you can see, is about to go onto the far side. Right over here. So it's over on the right. It's about to go back onto the far side of the sun and stuff. And so, but it'll probably be back around because it's a pretty active solar sunspot that we have. And so it ended up producing an X1.2 X flare and stuff. And the X flares, if we could harness this energy, we would be able to power the United States for 100,000 years. That's the level of energy that we're talking about coming off the sun. And of course, it helped create life on the planet. But to think about it in that way, it helps us again kind of grasp, right, the concepts of just how powerful these emissions are from the sun. And then of course, it would increase in activity as we come into the summer solstice, right? Summer solstice also coincides to the beginning of Cancer season, which is the house of the mother. It's at the home, representing the home, the mother, emotions, and whatnot. And then, of course, yesterplasma, we had the U.S. Hopping on the bandwagon of destruction. And so, again, we'll talk about it in just a minute. But for those of you who were with us last week and stuff, you have already seen this quote, but I would really encourage anyone and everyone who hasn't, please do check out World Astrology Report on YouTube. Specifically, this is a quote from Stefan Burns, who is a geophysicist. Very nice. He's well-rounded, and I appreciate his insights. And he joined Dan, who's the host of World Astrology Report, on the sun tsunamis and electromagnetic apocalypse. One thing that I didn't mention, just because there's so much information I want to share with you, is that we also this month, we had fires, and then we also had a lot of volcanic eruptions right now. Indonesia, Hawaii, Italy, and stuff. And Stefan talks about there's a correlation between the sun activity and the plasma that's being sent away, activating volcanoes. And so definitely check out his page. So Stefan Burns has his own page, and then World Astrology Report is his own page, but I encourage you to take a look at it. And so the sun is conscious. This was part of the conversation. If the sun is consciousness, how are we applying our consciousness to the energy that is coming in? Are we doing it from a lower frequency, lower consciousness, victim perspective? or are we turning the tables? Now that's important because what does the sun do? It amplifies things. And so again, this goes back to my comment about we have to give our bodies instructions, because a lot of us are dealing with old programming, right? Or we've been so indoctrinated into the cosmologies of control and the systems of oppression here on this planet that we are unable to think in a different way that's a benefit to us, that could help us process all of this plasma information that we're receiving, that is supposed to help us evolve on a DNA level. It's going to help. It's making us evolve whether or not we're conscious or not. So it's better to be conscious about it. So what solar consciousness is offering us by bringing it in is that we can immediately shift into a higher state. Solar storms, if you're resonating it within your body in a negative way, because a lot of people are, they're feeling much more tired, achy and stuff, it's illuminating what needs to be fixed, right? And so, give yourself some grace, but also listen to your body right now, because it's illuminating what needs to be fixed, okay? This is from May 31st. This is Alan Dyer in Gleichen, Alberta, Canada, ended up looking straight up with his camera. So this is a 360-degree panorama with the horizon all around the zenith. So this is the aura. This would be like a rainbow bouquet aura that he ended up capturing again during that intense solar storm that happened at the beginning of the month. And so just to kind of showcase with you all what was occurring. There was also one thing that was very interesting that they found out, and this is a new phenomena that just registered, is that the Oulu Cosmic Ray Station Finland ended up registering the biggest drop in cosmic radiation in more than 20 years on June 1st, when the big solar storm was happening. The severe solar storm, created from a fast-moving coronal mass ejection, ended up sweeping past Earth, and it pushed the galactic cosmic rays away from our planet, producing a 4-Bush decrease. And so this phenomenon of a 4-Bush decrease happens when coronal mass ejections thin our planet's radiation environment, dropping cosmic rays as much as 25%. And the last time this occurred was during the Halloween storm in 2003. And so galactic cosmic rays are an astronaut's worst dream. These are the rays that the sun protects us from with its heliosphere. And we're actually going to get into the heliosphere. I got some videos and stuff for the IM members. And if you're not an IM member, definitely consider joining us. But we will check that out on the third heptad. We say heptad instead of weeks. The third heptad next moon and stuff. We'll get in and we'll discuss and showcase what the heliosphere does and what it does, because there's some great science that's coming up about that piece. Again, I digress. But so the galactic cosmic rays come from interstellar space, and our sun's heliosphere actually helps, push and move. The heliosphere is essentially like the sun's electromagnetic fields and stuff, and its heat that pushes cosmic rays away from us, protecting our entire solar system. And so these are really damaging to our astronauts. And so again, this whole discussion, number one, Elon Musk, his rockets are blowing up. The sun is messing up. He owns about 2/3 of the satellites, and the sun is messing those up too. And now they're talking about, the realities of going to Mars. You get a big old dose of radiation, where the most vulnerable parts of the human body are those rapidly dividing cells, including bone marrow, reproductive organs, gastrointestinal tract, and your skin. And so the 4-Bush decreases can provide temporary relief. The problem is that there are not enough 4-Bush decreases to make a Mars journey completely safe. And actually, I think that they did a mission to the moon during this time, because the 4-Bush decreases can last a couple of weeks, and that they you could do a mission to the moon and have a reduced amount of radiation, but that's not the case with going to Mars. And so again, this is just a really interesting diagram that I wanted to showcase with you. So going to Mars means that they're going to get 700 times the radiation. I mean, I can't imagine the type of damage that will do to one's DNA on top of their bodies. And so, these galactic cosmic rays, they're highly energetic particles, and they actually are likely to have formed from like big events like a supernova, which we did have a supernova event. I did skip over that, but I hope you all had the opportunity to kind of read the last slide of the June events, because there was a supernova that ended up happening as well too. But the cosmic rays are ranged, the particulates that's in a cosmic ray is hydrogen, but also some uranium, which is found in trace amounts, and they're ionized gas. And so they tend to stick around. And that's actually part of what creates the part of the aurora effect, is like the leftover ions that kind of get stuck in the magnetic fields. And so when you got, coronal mass ejections and solar flares coming from the sun, and they end up reacting to each other. And that is where we get these beautiful, colorful auroras that is creating. Another really cool thing that happened this month is that this is from the Canary Islands. That's the International Space Station it's not system, it's a space station that ended up coming across the moon. And so it's a very rare event that they got to see it. And so you can see, like, this was the path in the orbit, but there's a really nice picture where it's just like, focuses and concentrates right here on the space station being in the moon spot. Another phenomena is coronal rain, which was very interesting. So the phenomenon, there's a movie that you can look into, and this is all information that came from spaceweather.com, but the coronal rain forms in plasma in the sun's atmosphere, which is the corona, cools, condenses, and falls like molten rain down a magnetic roller coaster. And so it's like this plasma is going along the magnetic fields that are coming out of the sun. And what's interesting about the sun is that the corona, the atmosphere, is much hotter than the actual surface of the sun, and they don't know why that is. And so this is all part of like the greater studies that are happening. And so we're going to get into a little bit of what the planets are communicating. And I ended up presenting this information during our future portals, which we've got the future, the past, and the future portals that are coming up. And so this is out of the book of Transcendence, the Cosmic History Chronicles. And I think it's important to get a better understanding of how this all links together. Okay. So the solar system is a galactic thought molecule, and the planets are electronic thought units. This is one whole system, a whole entity with multi-leveled facets, each with its own set of frequencies. Each planet in our solar system contains its unique consciousness and frequency, all contributing to a larger multi-leveled heliospheric consciousness. When we're talking about the heliosphere, we're talking about the sun, all right? Because we know that the sun is conscious, right? From the heliospheric perspective, planets are arranged and interpreted according to their orbital position in relation to the sun. Planetary consciousness. Now, see, this is something that was really mind-blowing to me. We have consciousness because we are here on Earth, and we are participating in Earth's consciousness, which is participating in the Milky Way, the solar system consciousness, all right, our solar system's consciousness, which is being generated through the sun. And then the other planetary bodies that we have present. And so human consciousness is actually a participation in the greater Earth consciousness. It is not we who possess consciousness, but is the planet that allows us to participate in its consciousness. And I thought that was very, very interesting. Earth or planetary consciousness is merely an attribute of solar consciousness, the consciousness of the local star and its planetary system. If we were on a different star, if we had a different star, there would be differences in the way that solar consciousness plays out, right? And so it's very localized and intentional that we are here as Earth beings on the planet Earth, having this unique experience, which is all relative to the lived reality of beings who live on the earth, right? The human brain in relation is merely a processing system. The human is literally a walking biopsychic antenna. The transitor circuit of our antenna connects with the planetary orbits and the residences held by each planet, which is why we follow the 13 moon calendar, right? Because we receive through our crown every single day plasma that activates different chakras, and then also mental spheres in our body, because essentially we have a map of the cosmos in our brain. That is, we are a microcosm of the macrocosm. And what the law of time does is that it teaches you about yourself, about your brain, about your connection to the solar system, the sun, and the whole, right? So that you can come in greater awareness about how to make use of this information. Because essentially the goal is that we are to get to the role of being galactic beings. Like, that is the evolution of us. We want to go to Mars, right? Except we want to be galactic beings, right? And so you can't be a galactic being if you still got Earth-based, if you've got only, let's say, limited consciousness, right? Because I don't think that most people even have Earth-based consciousness. I think that they've got consciousness that have been created from the cosmologies of control and the systems of oppression. So getting to Earth-based consciousness, which is what the law of time does. And again, the Synchronistic Human School of Enlightenment and stuff, we've got courses, we got the summer courses coming up. It helps you get that greater Earth consciousness. And I'll explain why this is important in a minute. And so with that, there's 5 circuits of consciousnness. Okay, so when we're going to get into some astrology in the moment, and our focus from a law of time lens is to focus on the specific relationship of the planets. Why? Because we know that the planets each have a quality of consciousness that they're communicating to us, okay? And so they're up in pairs. And so there's 10 planetary orbits are paired with each other to form 5 circuits that carry different qualities of heliospheric consciousness. And so Pluto and Mercury. Why? How does this relate to the kin? Each of the kin are connected to a specific planet. I am a world bridger. My planetary partner is the Red Skywalker, the prophet. We are Mars based. And it's so funny because like it made help when I realized that it helped put some things into perspective in regards to, energy and kind of, how, I kind of operate in the world, right, and stuff. And so it was very interesting in that part and thinking about Mars. But again, Mars is associated with the masculine, which it is connected to that, but is actually the power of death and prophecy, according to the law of time. And death is viewed as being an opportunity. It's about equalizing. And so it's not, in the doom and gloom way, because death is really just another portal to a different state of consciousness. And so it's just it's a different dynamic as you delve into the law of time. And so I just want to kind of make that piece. But this is where, for those of you who are new, if you would join us into the school or connect with any of us who are, who do readings and stuff, connecting with Nebtaharka, connecting with Moon Goddess, or connecting to myself and stuff, we'll get you that information. But then of course we also have the 1320 app, and then it's the Dream Spell calendar on on Android and stuff. I don't think that the Dream Spell calendar has the planets, but just reach out to us and we'll connect you with that information because it's important. So the orbital frequency, so each of the kin archetypes are connected to a planet, and then there are planets that are paired up, and essentially you're paired up in this kind of circuit, which we get into in the higher levels of the hollow mind perceiver. And the hollow mind perceiver is essentially learning that you got a map of the consciousness, the map of the cosmos here on your brain and stuff. And so that's what we're teaching there. But I know this is a lot of information, and I hope that I'm explaining it in a way that, you all can kind of grasp and have an appreciation for the connections here, even if it is only at the surface level. So just bear with me. So the orbital frequencies of the planets create one large field of resonance. Within this large field, every planet has some unique function in vibrational frequency, and each interplanetary circuit represents a different quality of consciousness and intelligence. We see this in astrology, right? Mercury retrograde, up this transit and stuff. So again, each planet has a vibrational frequency, right? That represents a different quality of consciousness and intelligence. And the law of time understands that as well too, but just in a different way. So what is the noosphere? This is really important and to understand. The noosphere comes from the Greek nous, which means mind or intellect, and sphera, which means sphere. And so it refers to the sphere of human thought, or the collective consciousness that emerges from and surrounds the earth, right? Much like the biosphere. We talk about the biosphere and all the wonderful different ecological zones that we have on the planet, right? That all work in harmony and stuff to be able to give us, air to breathe, right? Taking our carbon dioxide and transforming that into air. I mean, that whole biosphere process, right? The microbes, decomposition, all of that, right? But we also, being human beings on the planet and being extensions and manifestations of the creator, if we choose to evolve, because some of us are not understanding that nor caring to be a full representation of the creator, but more of a lesser being in certain respects, don't understand that what we think about affects the planet as a whole. I'm sure that people have thought, the butterfly effect and all this stuff. But again, what's occurring on the planet right now, right? So it affects us all. And so this noosphere is essentially the collective consciousness. It was first proposed by Pierre Teilhard de Chardin, who was a Jesuit priest and paleontologist, and then Vladimir Vernadsky, who's a Russian geochemist and biogeologist. They envisioned it as the third major evolutionary layer of Earth: geosphere, inanimate rocks, rocks and minerals, biosphere, living organisms, and then the noosphere, human cognition and conscious activity. Because if you want to talk about the level of consciousness that human beings have on the planet, look at where we're at right now. We have to evolve, or we are going to be, we're sowing the seeds of our own destruction. So with the noosphere, there's a living systems theory kind of approach, which provides a robust foundation to define and think about the noosphere. If we consider the noosphere, if we consider Earth as a planetary superorganism, right, a holon, right, a whole onto itself, it has to do with all processes involving matter, energy, and information on Earth. If one wants to focus on the mind, the nous aspect, we can restrict it to all information processing happening in humans and their technologies. We saw that the most critical and challenging issue is how to transition towards the noosphere. And this aspect can be approached with evolutionary science as a planetary major evolutionary transition. The noosphere is also often accompanied by future visions of what our planet could become. All right. Think about that. When you have people in the aggregate making the intention, there's always, beautiful global meditations. This is part of what the work does. I know that I remember Penda, Kin 86, talking about being a part of a group that does a prayer on behalf of all of us at the 11 o'clock hour, both in the morning and in the evening, right? Like those type of work, right? Of like the future visions of what our planet could be is important. And imagine if we had people in the aggregate en masse do that. And we are seeing that because of the times that we're in to a certain degree. What kind of features could emerge in the near future? We outlined two speculative futures: the emergence of a planetary consciousness and a growing will to make or join other noospheres in the galaxy. And so that's what's at stake here, and what the Earth is also, asking us to do, where it's like, look, you either become, part of the solution, or you be viewed as being part of the problem. And, Mother Earth got her ways to take care of that. And so I will say, just Mike, I'm not able to look at the chat at the moment. So, when we get into the videos, I'll make sure to kind of respond to what folks are sharing, but I do hope that you're enjoying the material so far. And so for those of you who are new, we are currently finishing up the 12th month. And next we're going to be going into the last month, the 13th month, in just 4 days. And that will finish out. And when we end the 13th month, we will be in a new year, but we are currently finishing the Blue Rhythmic Storm year. Okay, this is about organizing. This is about catalyzing. This is about change of energy, self-generation, balance. Like how do we come into greater balance? How do we organize? Right. This is all what's happening right now, as we can kind of see, like, how do we get out of this horrendous, hegemony of destruction that is just poisoning everything, right? And stuff. So, and with this year, there is the awakening of the divine masculine. So this is a year of organizing the earth wizards and activating the power of the divine will held by the masculines. The No Kings protest is a version of that. I see the prosecution of those who want to participate and be in the circle of degeneracy as being that, of men coming forward, talking about, sexual assaults and, and the culture of degeneracy that can be very much present within undivine, males, right? I mean, so all of that is, to me, evidence that we had veterans, do their little miniature storm the Capitol during the No Kings protest, right? And stuff. We've got men and women coming out protecting their communities, right, from ICE raids and stuff. And so that's all, to me, examples of the divine masculine, like showing care and stuff. And so look, it's happening during this year, but we're getting ready to move into the year of the divine feminine, which is for all of us. And I've got some great videos that really discuss what it means to operate in the divine feminine for all of us, not just, women, but also men as well too, and why it's the next step, because we have to increase the level of care here on the planet, right? We have to increase care in the newest sphere, in the collective consciousness, enough to make some critical changes that are overdue and necessary for the human community and for our planet. And so the times that we're in, we are in Pluto and Aquarius for the next 19 years. Well, it'll be 18 years now. And the last time Pluto was in Aquarius was when? During the French and American revolutions. And so this is where we talk about the associations of the kin and their connections to the planets. And so Pluto is what? The blue storm. And we are in a blue storm year. So self-generation catalyzes energy. And the yellow sun, we're in a solar maximum. And so the language of the universe is synchronicity, all right? So you'll see me kind of, make emphasis in certain places because of the synchronicities that you will see throughout this presentation and the planetary alignments that are occurring. So on the Hollow Mind Perceiver, which is the map of the cosmos, right, that we have present in our brain, if we so choose to engage, it's associated with circuit 10, catalytic enlightenment, all right? And then in the circuits of telepathy, the 5 circuits of consciousness that operates here on the planet is connected to the externalizing intelligence. So Pluto is an outer planet. Outer planets expands and releases consciousness, because Pluto is like, oh, wait, we don't like the power imbalances that are going to happen and stuff. We want to change our relationship to power. Oh yeah, we're going to expand and release that. We're going to release some things. And so that's what Pluto is associated with. Now, Aquarius is governed by Uranus. And so Uranus is associated with the white wind, spirit, communication, breath, and the red earth, navigation, evolve, synchronicity. On the Hollow Mind Perceiver, it's associated with circuit 8, evolutionary communications, us to be able to, connecting and getting those downloads, right? And then on the planetary level, it's connected to the Earth Spirit speaking tube. And what that is that the Earth holds a 28 unit harmonic frequency. It's called it's a biotelepathic tunnel. The way that I thought about it is like the Schumann resonance, as an example to me of like the Earth's harmonic frequency. And there's a lot of changes that have been happening with the Schumann resonance, which is like this hum that's generated by the Earth, but there's other additional frequencies that the Earth holds as well too. And so again, as an outer planet, Uranus helps expand and release consciousness. But here's the thing: navigation is spirit's means of returning to the source. Right. And so this idea is that we are having this revolutionary time, right, so that we can return to the source, because the cosmic mother is making her debut. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. I'm saying the synchronicities and the messages all through that. And I'm excited for it. But at the same time, it does open up the, attributes of the divine feminine, actions that are based in divine feminine, to attacks by the lesser beings. And so we're also in Saturn in Aries. And so for the first time in 29 years, the planet of boundaries and commitment plunges into fiery Aries. This popped off on May 24th and will be with us through September 2025, when Saturn will retrograde back into Pisces. But then Saturn in Aries will return in February 2026, and then will be with us for 2 more years. I mean, look at the timing of all of that, especially just again politically and where we're at and stuff. I mean, it makes sense. In other words, the next few years will demand a share of sweat, grit, and tears. And on the other side of this transit, you'll have an undeniable strength that's a force to be reckoned with, which is why I'm going to put a plug in. Neb Taharka is helping us, utilize the calendar to, create our day, right, so that we can get ahead of these things, right? And this is really a great and opportune time to do it, especially because we are in a Pluto retrograde piece, which is like having us, think about how we interact with power, be empowered ourselves, but it's like a rest period that we have until October. So this is, a really excellent time to engage in the summer classes and engage in the offerings of the Synchronistic Human School of Enlightenment, so that when we come into these moments and stuff, you will have a structure that's going to support you, but also support you not in just as consistency and discipline, but being outside of the realms of influence from the cosmologies of control, the fear frequencies, the lower frequencies that running amok right now, because you'll be in alignment with natural time. You'll be in alignment with the earth. You'll be in alignment with the solar system and the sun. And so that's the way to think about it. I hope that I'm making sense to you all, especially for our new folks. Because again, I know it was like learning a new language. I'm not going to lie. You have to unlearn what you've been taught. But at the same time, this is about remembrance, because again, you are older. Most of us, this is not our first incarnation here on this planet. If you found this information, you an old soul and a galactic soul, and I'm happy that you're here. We're all happy that you're here, and we're just helping you to remember, okay? So from a Saturn's and Aries perspective, according to the law of time, Saturn is associated with the blue knight, the abundance, dreams, and intuition, and the yellow warrior, intelligence, questions, and fearlessness. The yellow warrior is my challenge and my mental body, right? I am supposed to engage the gift of intelligence, which, I didn't have any, qualms or doubts about that piece, but the fearlessness, right? And questioning things and stuff. And so, it's really wonderful when you get to know yourself in a different way through this cosmology. So on the Hollow Mind Perceiver, the Saturn is associated with the circuit of dream intelligence, what comes through your dreams, right? Because it's so interesting to think of Saturn, because it's usually kind of like the disciplinarian, right? So yes, it's a disciplinarian because it is about focalized consciousness, like focalizing your consciousness and like paying attention, right? And that disciplines, you need focus to be able to have discipline. And you have discipline, you can get that abundance, right? You can realize your dreams and stuff. You can question and be fearless as a warrior. So it's just kind of interesting how, even though it's expressed and explained in a different way, there's still similarities to the understanding that the Greeks and those before the Greeks had, that we have a relationship with the planets and they affect our life here on planet Earth. Aries, as I mentioned earlier, is ruled by Mars, and it's associated with the White World Bridger, death equalizes opportunity, and the Red Skywalker, which is space, explores, and wakefulness. And prophecy, which is teaching, right, is also connected to the Red Skywalker. It's known as the prophet. So on the Hollow Mind Perceiver, associated with deathless awakenings, right? And that's where I think about, like, again, since World Bridgers are this, like, the cosmic librarians, I am sharing information with you to help you remember, right? It's an opportunity to remember. And then with Skywalker being the planetary partner, it's about exploring that is beyond and becoming aware and awakened to it. Because again, we're old souls, right? So we're speaking to that part of ourselves, that ancient. And a lot of people who have come through the law, the Synchronistic Human School of Enlightenment and law of time and stuff, they remember their cosmic origins or are given insights as they expand their awareness and balance their brain, with the universe. They come into greater awareness of who they are as the creator created us to be, in that original blueprint. And so as an inner planet, Mars focalizes and concentrates consciousness. And so there's a separation between the outer planets and then the inner planets, and they all do different things. The outer planets expands and releases consciousness. The closer planets to Earth focalizes and concentrates consciousness. So we also have, we've got a lot of feminine energy that we are working with right now. First and foremost, Venus in Taurus. Venus is associated with the yellow star. Elegance beautifies an art, and the blue monkey, magic plays an illusion. For those of you who are rocking with us last week, we know that this is a very ample time to do some intention work, do some magic work and stuff, because we're about to come into a new year. The Lion's Gate is a huge opportunity where it manifests things and stuff. So this, be very intentional with your time right now. I can't stress that enough. And so within the Hollow Mind Perceiver, it's associated with the circuit in the brain that connects with the magical arts, right? Visualizing, that's an example when I think of magic, plays an illusion, right? Visualizing yourself in a completely different, context, getting what you want. So that's that play piece and stuff is very much akin to visualization. So, for those of you who may be like, ooh, magic, not too stuff, think about, again, it's the mind and what you're trying to create for yourself, right? Being able to see it, to be able to create it, right? That's what we're talking about. On the planetary level, is connected to allied memory instinct. So engages our instinct and our memory, right? Venus does. And then again, it focalizes and concentrates consciousness. And Taurus is governed by Venus. So this is double feminine energy right here. Then we've got Mercury and Cancer that is here too. Mercury is associated with the white dog, which is, today's kin, heart, loves, and loyalty. And the red moon, which is universal water, purifies and flow, which interestingly enough was just yesterplasma. We were in a red moon day, and that was also the first day of Cancer season, which is the house of the mother, emotions, and home, and also when war tried to disrespect the feminine again. And so with this on the Hollow Mind Perceiver in the mind, this is connected to the purified heart. On the planetary level, Alpha Omega recharge, and that is connected to the sun, which you'll see in a little bit. As an inner planet, again, it's about focalizing and concentrating consciousness. And again, Cancer is governed by the moon. We're officially in Cancer season. The moon is our emotions, but also the rhythms and flows, because we operate on a lunar calendar here, right? So but we also recognize and connect with the sun's energy as well too. But the calendar, the rhythms that we follow are definitely aligned with the moon. All right, Jupiter in Cancer. This is the big one, okay? Jupiter is associated with the yellow seed, which we're coming into a yellow seed solar cycle, a solar year just in a month and some change, and that's flowering, targets, and awareness. Okay, so what do you all want to flower and target through your awareness, into this upcoming year? How are you preparing yourself with that? With what? The Blue Eagle, vision creates mind. This Jupiter is connected to dream intelligence, okay, in the mind, and it is also, let me make sure. If I made a mistake there, I'll come back to that piece and stuff, but I think it's dream intelligence. But I'll double check. And so just let's put a pin into that. But on the circuits of telepathy, it's circuit 4, which is externalizing intelligence. And so as an outer planet, Jupiter expands and releases consciousness. Interestingly, right now, we are in a 65-day eagle season of vision. Look at the synchronicity. It's called the Blue Galactic Spectrum, which began on May 18th. And we're currently on plasma 35 of a 65-day or plasma. We call days plasma season of vision. So again, as I mentioned earlier, what's your intention? I mean, this is the time to do some New Year's resolutions, all right? Not in the middle of winter, right? Instead, we're talking about at the height of activity to catalyze it, right? With that universal fire. So what are your New Year resolutions, your New Year visions that you are creating? Because right now you're in the season of vision, and this is the time to do it. And Jupiter, from an astrology standpoint, expands, right? So this is about flowering and, creating like vision and mind, the expansion of that, okay? And again, once again, so right now the sun is in Cancer. So we got the moon in Cancer, we got Mercury in Cancer, we got Jupiter in Cancer, and then we got the sun in Cancer, right? And stuff like we've got all this present with us right now. And again, this is about the home, emotions, the mother, but from the sun aspect, because it's like the sun season. So the sun is in Cancer for the next kind of month here and stuff. And that's about, the vitality or inner self, and the ability to assert ourselves. And generally, it's a tone of which covers everything. And so to kind of make this a little bit more accessible, I wanted to showcase Dr. Bhairavi, the Sky Priestess, who I really respect her work. She has a very unique understanding of astrology from an indigenous perspective. She's Tamil, Indian, but she lives in Malaysia. And she's always kind of right on the board. So we've just showcased, we've got Saturn in Aries, but we've also got some other planets, some kind of nasty, gnarly asteroids like the False Light, which is Boracici, and then like some other kind of, other astrological bodies and stuff that are kind of gnarly, that are in Aries energy, that's kind of clashing. So it was funny. She was like, usually you think with an abundance of Cancer energy, it's all like, all nice and cozy at home, like being a hobbit, with your teas and your snacks, right? Like under a blanket, chilled up. Where really right now the energy is going on, it's more like a fight for the Shire is what she coined it as. And so this is about how do we balance, how do we balance fire and water? It's that alchemy piece, right? For those of you who do tarot, that is that temperance card, right? Balancing fire and water. And so the Aries energy is all about the truth of the self. The challenge is to understand what is the self, what is the truth for that self. So this is from her Substack article, Clashes of Water and Fire, the Truth of the Spirit, which she just put out yesterday. I encourage you all, definitely, if you're interested, sign up for her Substack, because she gives really excellent and practical, she's a Capricorn, practical application of astrology, which I really appreciate. So, Aries energy is like, what is the self and what is the truth for that self? What spirituality ultimately leads you to is the awareness that you are not your body, your mind, your emotions, your karma, or anything you can actually put a label on. A lot of what people call their emotions are ego programs and unprocessed trauma and karma, which can become a major psychic and spiritual backdoor that clouds you in the best sight. That's why shadow work is so important, right? So that you don't have things popping up on you, right? You're unannounced or even, out of your awareness. You must understand that saying I feel this does not mean that you're operating from your highest truth. It is one expression of your feelings. So that's one thing that we have to be mindful of, right? Because, this is lots of feeling Cancerian energy. We're in our feels and stuff, but recognize that's old programs, right? Unprocessed trauma. You feel it in the present moment, but you ultimately have to make a decision of how you're going to make use of that information, right? And I say this being an emotional person. My Venus is in Cancer and I'm a rising Cancer. So I'm speaking to myself as much as I'm speaking to all of you, right? About remembering that we are more than our emotions. We're more than our karma. We're more than our bodies, and we're more than our minds, right? When spiritual, this is that white wind, the breath, the spirit, right? We are a living expression for those of us who choose to be of the creator, right? And we get to know that through understanding our archetypes, understanding our tones. I'm a magnetic tone, so, I can magnetize things for good and for bad, but, I started off. And so this is part of the work that I'm doing with you all, is connecting you with this information so that you can start it off with the information that you need. But when spiritual insight or alignment occurs, be it from within or through an externally focused awareness of connection with the greater presence of the divine, there are no words for it. When you live as yourself from this space, there is only truth, not multiple truths, just truth. The truth of pure being presence. That's it. I love it because she really likes to emphasize that in work of just being, not trying to be anybody else, or just being. And so the test, she says, is on your ability to manage your emotions in your home space or whatever is in your life, that the trigger is going to be presented, because the way you manage your emotions or how you allow them to get the better of you will shape your ability to experience that deeper aspect of truth as self or not. Because you got a lot of people who are going to be out of their minds because they don't own their own minds. But we aim to own our minds. That's that self-mastery that we are seeking. So, recognize that and operate accordingly. So there's a little bit more about the watery Cancer, balancing fire and water. So Cancer asks, where do we learn about life in this incarnation? It begins in the mother's womb. Again, this is where the divine feminine is prompting us. She's letting us know she's making her entrance. And through those present in your earliest years of existence, that is when so much of who you see yourself as being is formed. It's the energy of home, family, rootedness, and that sense of belonging or group context from which you individuate as a personality. Food, traditions, and culture go a long way in shaping our memories and emotional responses. In a very 3D sense, Dr. Bhairavi says, the Cancer-Aries clash can manifest as disagreements with authority figures in the home or domestic space, or evoke emotional responses that trace back to power imbalances that we experience in our early childhood. If it's not the home directly, it's still about authority seeking to limit your expression of feeling, being, and comfort, right? The very first chakra that forms when we're a child is the root chakra, and it's about, are we safe? Right. And so that reminds me of that piece. It's like, we're being, confronted that's some of what those emotional responses. When talking about the imbalances in early childhood, I think of them in a way they can be root chakra issues. They can also be sacral chakra issues as well too. Our ability to be able to create. So she also goes on to say, this is a time where a lot of you will see the truth of your home life, your emotions, and how you will coexist or not within whatever space you have to negotiate. Whatever you choose to do your best to come from that space of inner truth. This is where meditation, facilitation, inner work therapy, and whatever you do to find clarity come in. But it really has to be you making your decisions. Even if you have to take a hard step, do so with a clear conscience and no malice in your heart, that pure heart peace, right? And stuff, that's that Jupiter energy, pure heart, right? The white dog, which is the plasma and the message that we're receiving about today. Celebrate your family of origin, or for those who can't, your family by choice. You want to surround yourself with as much as possible souls who appreciate you, where you appreciate them, you know, the souls who you can grow together with, walk together, and who bloom in mutual admiration and tangible support. That is genuinely the best expression of this fire-water combination that she can think of. Okay, so I hope that you found those kind of insights practical of how to utilize and balance this water and fire energy. Now, July at a glance, we got a lot going on. So we're going to be connecting, getting into the yellow magnetic human wave spell guided by free will here just in a day. It's the day after tomorrow on Tuesday. That's when we begin a new wave spell. And for those of you who are new, a wave spell is a 13-day of evolution where we get to grow through the wisdom of the yellow human. Each and every single one of the archetypes has its own wave spell, and we get to grow through that. We are right now in the blue storm wave spell, in a blue storm year. So we got double lessons that we learn, and right, how to self-generate, utilize all this energy that we're getting right now from the sun and the solar maximum to catalyze things for us, right? Because we're about to come into Lionsgate. That's when the galactic year begins. It's Star Sirius. It's what the Egyptians follow. It's the flooding of the Nile and stuff. So again, the synchronicities are just really profound once you start looking into this. We have a new moon in Cancer, which is by the end, which will be on Thursday. And that's in the red lunar Skywalker, guided by life force. We've got the blue self-existing eagle, which kicks off the 13th moon, which is the cosmic moon of presence, which is about enduring, transcending, and presence, and what is guided by magic, right? And so that's, again, that Jupiter energy, right? That we were talking about earlier, and how we're in this really interesting season of being able to visualize and a new year's resolution for ourselves, a new vision for ourselves. And so the question that this moon asks us to do, to contemplate for the next 28 days when we enter on Friday, is how can I expand my joy and love? All right. So this is where we're starting to hit a little bit on the love as the universal synthesizer, but we got some more information for you. And so then there's a red magnetic servant wave spell, which begins on the 7-7 portal, and that's guided by life force. That's Mama Tahita's. That's her energy right there. So she's going to be guiding us for 13 plasmas to help us orient as we get ready for this new solar year. We then have this yellow self-existing star, which is guided by flowering. That's the full moon in Capricorn. Then we have the white magnetic mirror wave spell, which is guided by endlessness. And then we have the blue lunar storm guided by magic. And that starts a 5-day, that's 5 days before the new year, which is a purification cycle. So that's an opportunity that you can take advantage of to kind of purify yourself and release whatever is necessary, right? So that your awareness is clear, so that you can target, you have a better understanding of your target that you want to flower in this upcoming new year. Then there is the yellow electric sun, which is guided by flowering. That kicks off. So right now we are in the season of vision, right? With the blue eagle. On 7/22, July 22nd, we're going to be in the sun season of enlightenment, which I think also corresponds with Leo season. And so that's also World Noosphere Day. Now we have a better understanding of what Noosphere Day, again, is about the collective consciousness and raising the collective consciousness. Then we have the white overtone wind, which is the new moon in Leo. We have the blue rhythmic night, which is guided by abundance, which is, and also the day out of time. And so look at that. The day out of time is an opportunity for you to disconnect from all kind of, electronics and stuff, and just really sit with spirit, because you're going to be guided by abundance on that day. And then on July 26th, we begin the new yellow resonant seed year, guided by intelligence. It's the new year, the Lion's Gate opening, and it's beginning of the magnetic moon of purpose, which is purpose, unify, and attract. Again, what are you attracting in this new year? What is your goal? That is a question that we'll be asking ourselves once we come into the magnetic moon of purpose, which represents the very first moon in the new year of the galactic calendar. And so recognize, this is last time we talked about, abundance as your birthright, abundance, fertility, that's all aspects of the divine mother. And so we're coming into this next moon that we're coming into is the cosmic moon of presence. It's about endure, transcend, and presence. Okay, so we begin that this Friday. Tone 13, symbolized by the spiral, represents dynamic of movement, present in everything, and by which everything is self-changing and vivified by universal cosmic life force. The gift of your cosmic identity is to access the power of omnipresence. What did Dr. Bhairavi talk about? It's just about being present, right? Being in the now. This is about being a disciple of the present moment, cultivating your capacities to be wakeful and receptive to each new now, going beyond the rational mind and letting yourself think with your ancient heart, by allowing your cosmic spirit to carry you through the many journeys of trial and triumph this life has to offer, by transcending fears of the future, by transcending regrets of the past. So look, what you need to release, go ahead and release, in this upcoming moon, let it go before we come into the new year. And especially a heck of a year that we're in. And so by transcending the limits of linear time and synchronizing with the radial flow, synchronizing with the 13 moon calendar, right? You become much more in synchronic reality. You get to understand and see more of the synchronicities that only affirm that you are in line with spirit, right? And operating on the spirit, on the frequency that you can align with spirit and our planet and our solar system. And then by recognizing all of us to be but evolving children of an ever unfolding cosmos. But y'all are here. So, I think we're in good space in regards to, where we at in our evolutionary journey in comparison to other folks. And, it's not a dig at them, but, you're here for a reason, and we need what you bring to the table. And so this is the incoming solar year. It'll happen on Kin 124, yellow resonant seed. And the resonant tone year asks us, how can I attune my service to others? Okay. It's about the blue light and the awakening of the divine feminine, the balance of the right hemisphere. The yellow resonant seed opens new Sirius cycle 38. This is a year of attuning the flowering of seeds planted. What seeds are you wanting to plant in the next month? All right. And entering the creative imaginal realm. Divine feminine is the supreme power of creative imagination. Now, this goes back when we were talking about the alpha and the omega recharge, right? That's available to us. That's coming up. I think it was with Mercury, if I'm not mistaken. This is come to find out, they envision the divine union of Helios. Helios is the sun. And so, interestingly enough, physics shows that the sun is actually two solar beings. So how the sun was created is that two individual hydrogen atoms merged through cosmic fusion and then created a newly created helium atom, but it also multiplied 1 billion times over. And just to give you an example, that I mentioned that there was a supernova that happened this month. And within a week, that supernova was visible by the naked eye. It had grown 4 million times in magnitude, its light, in a week. So think about that. Two little individual hydrogen atoms come together and then boom, multiplied 1 billion times to become what? Our brilliant sun that gives life here on this planet and solar codes and evolution and protects us from cosmic rays and stuff. And so I was really surprised to learn about that, because about the the two sun piece, because I've heard other people speak about that, like Dr. Delbert Blair and whatnot. And so Helios and Vesta are the names given to these two beings, the divine parents of our solar system. At birth, each of us was split into two equal, and that's exactly how mitosis happens, right? When the sperm hits the egg and stuff, all of a sudden the egg is what? It is dividing, it becomes two, and then it becomes four, and then it goes from there, right? And so when the two halves are rejoined, so at birth, each of us was split into two equal but opposite polarities. When the two halves are rejoined in perfect resonance, solar consciousness results. And so that's what's going to be happening here, which is awesome. And so now I'm going to, I appreciate your presence. I'm going to start landing the plane here. We have maybe about 40 or so minutes of video that I want to share with you. Again, I have, I'm speeding them up so we get through the videos a little bit faster. But let me go ahead and get out my presentation real quick, because I do want to share with you all. I'm just looking at, I'm glad that you all are looking, yep, and Tesla's been flushed. So I'll get through the comments in a moment, but let me go ahead and set you all up. I'm going to stop sharing real quick. We're going to watch our beloved Dan from World Astrology Report. We're not going to watch the entire one. Let me go ahead and put this in the chat right now so that you guys can check it, so that you wonderful folks can check it out at a different time. And so there it is in the chat if you want to watch the full video. We're going to just hear him. He talks about what happened last month and where his predictions are. His predictions for this month, I'll let you be the judge of that and stuff, but he still has some valuable information to share. And I mean, he's just awesome in general. He does an excellent job of showcasing the astrology with the political events that are happening, right? And also the history of events and the transits that were happening at that time. And again, the connections that are there, the cycles are there. So he's wonderful. But we're just going to listen to what he has to say about Venus and Taurus and the upcoming kind of cycles. And if you want to listen to the rest of the broadcast, I encourage, you've got the link for y'all to listen to. So let me make sure that the audio, and so I will ask you all once I play here. And so, okay, we got that. We can go ahead and bring this up. Thank you kindly. And so let me make sure y'all can hear okay. And my system is up in the way that it needs to be. All right.
Let's just set the scene.
Can y'all hear that?
Saturn will begin a month in Aries, which it entered on May the 25th. Saturn's new presence in this sign could be setting the tone.
Will y'all let me know in the chat if you hear were you able to hear the audio that was played? I can have somebody in the chat. Let me know. I'll go back to it. Let's see. I'm not seeing any. You could. Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Ashley. All right. I'll go ahead and play it.
In June. So keep that in mind and review last month's forecast if you want to know what Saturn in Aries is all about. Now, on June the 6th, Venus will return to her home people together in Earth sign. If Taurus could be boiled down to a simple principle, it would be I have. Taurus tends to attract.
That's interesting because I do have I have it at the highest, both on my system and also here. And so, again, I'm sorry that unfortunately it doesn't seem like it's going to be loud enough for whatever reason, but it's at the highest. And so I'm hoping that you all will have the opportunity to do the replays. Anybody else having it be very low? I can try maybe not doing the system audio and seeing if that works and stuff. But is anybody else experiencing low volume as well too? People want to let me know in the chat. Could you turn it up? It's low. Okay, so let me try something real quick. Let me see. I'm going to stop screen and then I'm going to try to present again. And also share tab audio. Let's see, window. Let's do To share audio, share a tab or screen. We'll do let's try the entire screen. Let's try that. Okay, we'll try that. All right. Hopefully this will work. I'm going to play. Thank you.
If Taurus is like a field, then its ideal formula is akin to the farming calendar: plow, sow. It strives for a kind of harmonious and steady rhythm between work, rest, and play. In the ancient world, wealth was counted in heads of cattle. Head is caput in Latin, which is where we get the words capital and capitalism from. In astrology, Taurus is associated with farming.
Still low? Okay, yeah. Unfortunately, you all have the link. Please do look at it on your own. I don't know. Everything's fine here. Please keep going. Okay. For those of you who are having, it's better on your phone. All right, good deal and stuff. Y'all might just have to, switch over to your phone or put some headphones in stuff, but you got the link to check it out. I appreciate your time here, so we'll just continue to keep going. Thank you for letting me know. All right.
Banking, real estate, luxury, food, and the arts. Venus's move from Aries into Taurus represents a big gain in what she's considered to be an exile or detriment to her comfortable home domain. This means she'll get stronger and more empowered to do the kind of things she likes, unify people, and create harmony, beauty, ease, and pleasure. Taurus represents a particular whole sign house of your natal chart. Venus moving into Taurus is like the owner returning home from a long holiday and setting about cleaning up and getting things working smoothly again. Good news indeed for that part of your life. But there's a but. Something to bear in mind about Venus's transit through Taurus is that it will face a slightly rocky start. That's because on June the 9th, Venus will form a square with Pluto. She'll be dragged into his underworld domain, where she'll be faced with unpalatable and confronting truths related to love, beauty, value, and friendship. Pluto-Venus contacts can be times when you're forced to be uncomfortably honest in your close relationships, when unseemly things are revealed. At the same time, Venus will be powerful in her home sign, so these should be challenges you can meet relatively easily. Pluto is interested in forcing the truth out of you, and if you're willing to be brave and engage with that process, then relationships can emerge all the stronger after one of these transits. And pay attention to the art you come across at this time. It may well depict the seamier or scarier aspects of relationships and human life in general. So from around June the 6th to the 12th, Venus will be conversing with the Dark Lord. After that, let there be love. Now, Venus's improving condition isn't the only good news in June, because the other of the two traditional benefic planets, Jupiter, is also about to be empowered. On June the 9th, Jupiter will leave Gemini, which has been transiting through since May of last year. The information overload is about to end. Cancer is the homely lunar sign that signifies bounded spaces of identity, places of care, protection, and nourishment. In world astrology, Cancer relates to the home, but also the nation, tribe, and homeland. It's associated with national security, as well as food and the restaurant industry. Now, the moon is the traditional ruler of Cancer, but Jupiter also shares some of the rulership of this sign because it's where the greater benefic was traditionally said to be exalted. So it's pretty powerful here. Jupiter strives to make things grow and expand and to bring people together under the banner of things like faith and wisdom. It promotes spiritual growth and gains in wealth, which is why we all tend to love those Jupiter transits. Now, Cancer represents a particular whole sign house of your natal chart. All other things being equal, that house will now benefit from Jupiter's expansive, stabilizing, and inspirational presence in this sign. And these effects should build over the course of the year that Jupiter is in Cancer. So if you're a Libra rising, Cancer will be your 10th house, and this is good news for your career over the coming year. If you're a Capricorn rising, this should be good for relationships and business partnerships. Or if you're a Taurus rising like me, your mind, your siblings and close friends, and your community life is set to benefit. But as with Venus's entry into Taurus, Jupiter's initial ingress into Cancer might not be immediately satisfying. As soon as Jupiter enters Cancer, it immediately forms squares with Saturn and Neptune, which will both be in very early Aries. Squares are aspects of action, friction, and conflict. The Jupiter-Neptune combinations can be optimistic, but irrationally so and even delusional, while Jupiter-Saturn squares put the brakes on Jupiterian optimism with Saturnian realism. So the entry of Jupiter into Cancer could be a bit of a roller coaster. Initially, your efforts to expand in a certain area of life might be limited by fears or restrictions of some kind, but things might feel more optimistic from around the 15th to the 23rd of June or so as Jupiter squares Neptune, although there may also be a risk of overextension due to delusion and irrational optimism. After that, Jupiter in Cancer should bring growing benefits to whatever house of your chart it lands in. But Jupiter's squares with Saturn and Neptune are also going to be important cyclical moments in Jupiter's synodic cycles with those two planets. The Jupiter-Saturn cycle concerns governance, lawmaking, and technology in world astrology. This is actually the third and final square that Jupiter and Saturn have made, so it's actually marking the culmination of this important phase of their synodic cycle. These planets conjoined back in December 2020, around the time that certain experimental medical technology was rolled out for the first time. I think the rollout of the jabs was symbolic of a broader impulse, though, that of globalist managerialism and transhumanism, essentially. Around the time of the conjunction, the WHO also stated its intention to push for a pandemic treaty. At this key phase of the cycle, the waxing square, we're seeing some interesting things happening related to those themes that were established at the cycle's start. On May the 20th, the WHO adopted its pandemic treaty after 3 years of negotiations. The US will not be adopting it, and we're currently seeing a lot of questioning of those measures taken during the pandemic, including from senior members of the American government. The Jupiter-Neptune synodic cycle is also worth paying attention to. These two planets formed a conjunction in Pisces back in April of 2022, just after the Ukraine war started. These conjunctions tend to coincide with optimism and peacemaking, and around this time, Ukraine and Russia very nearly signed a peace deal. However, none other than Boris Johnson flew to Kiev and persuaded Zelensky against agreeing to the deal. And so the war went on. We're now reaching the first major phase in the Jupiter-Neptune cycle, the first square, as with the Saturn cycle. And we're hearing more and more about the possibility of a peace deal between Russia and Ukraine. Are we about to see one take shape? I think it's possible, although I wouldn't bet really heavily on it. That said, I do think that at some point, while the Saturn-Neptune conjunction is active, between now and say 2027, we are indeed likely to see the border between Russia and Ukraine fixed once again. All we can do is watch and hope. But back to Jupiter in Cancer. That's good for our Cancer houses, but what does it mean in world astrology? Well, Cancer is a sign of the nation, homeland, and national security. Jupiter moved into Cancer on July the 31st of 2001, shortly before 9/11. This should tell you that a strong Jupiter doesn't prevent bad things from happening in the world. But what it did signify in the US was a kind of national unity. People mostly put aside their differences and agreed that they needed to come together to defend the homeland. Of course, in the traumatic aftermath of that event, we also saw the shadow expressions of Jupiter in Cancer. An exalted planet can be puffed up and arrogant, as if the rules don't apply to it. Remember the words of George W. Bush, "You're either with us or against us." Remember all the witch hunts against those who didn't toe the line. Homeland security, Cancer, was everything at that time for the US. It's something that's hard to accept, I think, for some astrologers, because they want the greater benefic to stand for things that they approve of, is that Jupiter is also the planet of imperialism. Imperialism brings disparate masses of people under one ruling system into one big family. Remember, Jupiter is Zeus, king of the gods. You can thrive under his protection, but you can also be a tyrant. In Cancer, Jupiter's concern is focused on those within the family, and his rule can be somewhat overbearing. Dad knows what's best for you, or at least thinks he does. In the last Jupiter in Cancer transit, which came from June the 26th, 2013 to July the 16th, 2014, Russia annexed Crimea. As far as the Russians were concerned, they were restoring their homelands and bringing members of their family, i.e. the Russian speakers of Crimea, back under their protection. During the same transit on June the 29th, 2014, ISIS leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi announced the forming of a caliphate, another kind of family, a bounded space of identity. I think the combination of Saturn and Neptune in Aries squaring Jupiter in Cancer is going to supercharge impulses towards nationalism and nativism in the coming year. For some, that'll be a relief after so much Piscean, laissez-faire, open borders kind of stuff. Things are probably now going to swing the other way, hard and fast. Expect a surge in movements and initiatives aimed at ensuring national security and belonging and excluding those deemed not to be part of the family. Jupiter in Cancer can be a healing influence. It was in that sign when the Berlin Wall fell, a moment when a nation, a kind of family long divided, was once again brought together. Amid times of fear and chaos, it can feel good to unite under the protection of the King of the Gods. And it can also be dangerous, as the 1930s showed. There is a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens. Now let's change tack a little and examine this month's full moon. On June the 11th, we'll see a full moon in the 21st degree of Sagittarius. Sagittarius is a mutable fire sign ruled by Jupiter and represented by the image of the archer. Mercury learns through study and careful observation. The two Jupiterian signs are concerned with gnosis, learning the truth through experience. Piscean experience is mystical, It involves soaking up the truth almost as if through osmosis. Sagittarius learns the truth by heading out into the world and adventuring, soaking up knowledge along the way. And then it preaches. Oh yes, it preaches. This full moon will bring a culmination or revelation of some kind in the Sagittarius whole sign house of your chart. Part of your life where you cling to optimism, even in the most threatening of circumstances. In world astrology, Sagittarius relates to higher education, travel, foreign affairs, global trade, publishing, and religion. Any and all of these affairs are ripe to be highlighted at the time of this full moon. But there's something else interesting about this lunation. The moon will be close to square to the lunar nodes at a place astrologers call the south bending. This is when the moon is south of the ecliptic and reaching a turning point, at which point it starts heading north once again. I think moons at the bendings are a bit more powerful than your average lunations because they carry eclipse energy with them. The moon reaches this point halfway between eclipse seasons, which come every 6 months or so. And often they carry forward storylines that began at previous eclipses and that will move forward at the next ones. I'll give you an example. On October the 3rd of 2024, we saw a solar eclipse at 10 degrees and 3 minutes Libra. These Libra eclipses signaled major developments in the Middle East, particularly concerning Israel and Gaza. On October the 1st of 2024, Iran launched around 200 ballistic missiles at Israeli headquarters as retaliation against Israel's assassinations of the Hamas and Hezbollah leaders in late July of that year. Almost 3 months later, there was a new moon at 9 Capricorn, square to the lunar nodes, on December the 31st of 2024. Around that time, Israel launched airstrikes against Iran's Houthi allies in Yemen, targeting power plants and ports and the country's airport at Sana'a. The IDF said it had carried out the attacks because this infrastructure was supposedly being used to transfer Iranian weapons and officials into that area. So we can see how the same theme of conflict between Israel and Iran came up once again at this lunation, the lunar bending. We can expect something similar with this coming full moon in Sagittarius. It's coming almost exactly 3 months after the lunar eclipse at 23 Virgo on March the 14th of this year. This eclipse season seemed to be signaling the Trump tariffs. The lunar eclipse spans the Virgo-Pisces axis. Pisces is things that flow, like global trade and liquidity, while Virgo is technicalities, expertise, and things like that. And so I think this Sagittarius full moon could well see significant developments in international trade and business that are downstream of Trump's tariff strategy. All right, let's move on. There's something happening that could bring turbulence in the middle of June, and that turbulence may land on the doorstep of President Donald Trump. On June the 15th, Mars, the planet of conflict, action, and the pursuit of desire, will form a square with Uranus. Uranus is an unpredictable and often shocking, surprising energy, especially when it's interacting with hot, dry, fast-moving Mars. And so Mars-Uranus hard aspects, like the square, tend to signify surprising or unexpected events that happen very quickly. They can sometimes be violent. Now, the reason I'm highlighting this transit in its own special section this time is that it happens to be dialed closely into the natal chart of Donald Trump. Trump has his ascendant on the star of Regulus at 29 degrees of Leo, which is very close to where Mars will be when it forms its square to Uranus. So Trump is in the firing line of this transit. What could that look like? Well, Mars on the ascendant brings fire and heat to the native. Trump might feel provoked or angry at this time. He might find himself in conflict with someone or something. And sometimes Mars can also even bring sickness or injury. Trump might even be the agent of this energy. He might take some kind of action that surprises the world. Whatever it is, it's likely to be unexpected, fast acting, to come out of the left field. The moon of the US natal chart is also in the crosshairs of this configuration, so it looks like something that could affect the general conditions of the US or the people themselves, or at least get them riled up. Dietrich Pessin's lunar gestation cycle technique tells us that lunations 9 months apart signify events that are thematically linked. We recently saw how 2 Trump assassination plots emerged in March of this year, 9 months after the attempt on his life in Butler, Pennsylvania in July of last year. Well, in the middle of this June, we'll be reaching 9 months after the alleged second failed attempt on his life at his golf course in Palm Beach, Florida. We might well see another plot emerge in the middle of June. This energy will peak on the 15th of June, but it could express itself a few days either side of that. And interestingly enough, this energy will be dialed into Trump's entire year because his solar return, which is when the sun returns to its natal position, happens on June the 13th. Now, this will really be Mars's last stand in Leo before it changes sign. Mars has spent months and months in Leo and Cancer this year because of its retrograde, so this represents an important shift for the war planet. From June the 17th to August the 6th, Mars will be in Mercury's mutable Earth sign of Virgo. When Mars is in Mercury signs, including Virgo, we see a clever Mars, one that's excellent at spotting and cutting away problems. I've noticed that a lot of generals have Mars in Mercury signs of Gemini and Virgo. Mars in Virgo is an excellent time see what routines or practicalities or systems aren't working in your life, and cut away the fat. And before we go, there's one last thing that I want to talk to you about: Cancer season. The summer solstice is the moment of the year at which the days are at their longest and the nights are shortest. Following this moment, light will begin to decline and darkness grows day by day, even if light is still dominant. We can associate light metaphysically with spirit and darkness with matter. And so Cancer signifies the descent of spirit into matter. There is also the ascending sign of the Thema Mundi, the traditional birth chart of the world, used as a teaching device by astrologers of the Hellenistic period. So Cancer signifies birth and motherhood and related themes such as protection, security, nourishment, and helping others to flourish. Both the luminaries and their signs have to do with identity, but where Leonine identity relates to the spirit at the very core of each human being, Cancerian identity is connected to the soul and material forms like bodies, homes, and nations. And it's often seen as a moody or emotional sign, which is due to its rule by the moon, planet of emotion. In truth, Cancers are often very tough people, at least on the outside. Think of the crab with its hard shell and soft insides. More than most, the sensitive recognize the need to defend themselves. Cancer seeks to identify itself with a corner of the earth and to make that a place in which those it loves can grow and thrive. The poet Lord Byron, a double Cancer, wrote, "There is a pleasure in the pathless woods. There is a rapture on the lonely shore. There is society where none intrudes. By the deep sea and music in its roar. I love not man the less, but nature more." What is the world but the domain of the moon? On June the 25th, we'll see a new moon in Cancer, which will be conjunct Jupiter, freshly into that sign. A new moon conjunct an exalted Jupiter looks like it will signify a lucky and expansive new beginning. That said, there is a but here. The new moon is squared by Saturn and Neptune. So there may be some sense of doubt or disillusion accompanying that new beginning. You'll want to make sure that whatever you envision here is realistic and that you're seeing things clearly. And one last thing before we go. On July the 7th, Uranus will move into the sign of Gemini, having spent the last 7 years or so in Taurus. This will be the last of the big outer planet sign changes this year. And I think it's the last piece of the puzzle that needs to get put in place before this decade gets really crazy. Big outer planet ingresses tend to make their effects known a little before the planet actually changes sign. So I'm thinking June could well be where we really start to feel the Uranian shift, especially because fast-acting planets like Mars and Uranus tend to jump the gun a little in making their effects known. In Gemini, Uranus will be far more powerful than it was in Taurus, which is a slow-moving and rather stubborn sign. And so the Promethean, fast-moving planet will almost overnight have far more power to enact its agenda, creating sudden and revolutionary shifts in technology and consciousness and disrupting sclerotic systems. The pace of events this year is about to level up, so strap in. That's it for this forecast episode. In the members version of this video, available at World
Hey, am I being heard now? Okay. All right. So I was up here talking to nobody. Thank you, Yashima, for letting me know. I wanted to say I'm going to jump back into, so I know that I've got to exit out. I'll be more mindful of that and stuff. I'm going to move on to the next video. This next video is The War on the Divine Feminine. Mark Passio explains the subversive occult symbolism. I'm going to place the link once again in the chat for you all to have and to check out. This video is specific to DC and the symbolism in DC. And then I will also showcase, for those of you who want to make a trip to DC, will provide you with 2 wonderful opportunities to understand on a deeper level the symbolism that created, because again, the founding fathers were Freemasons. And if you break down the word Mason, sun, the Washington Monument is a monument to Osiris, Asar. And there's a field trip to learn all of that. And we're going to talk about Benjamin Banneker, get his due. But let me first and foremost set you up with the plot twist, in particular, how the District of Columbia was created to destroy the care of the divine feminine. And so let me just stop talking and let you all jump right into it. We're going to once again share the screen, entire screen. We know we got to share the system audio so y'all can hear it. And I'm going to go ahead and mute and see you on the other side.
The illuminated torch. This can be simultaneously a symbol of freedom, knowledge and awareness of enlightenment, and knowledge to subvert others and to create sacrifice or immolation in the world. I don't tend to see this symbol as such. I tend to look at this symbol as flame of knowledge, the flame of the torch of freedom, the torch of liberty, and that's how I tend to look at it. But it goes back to the Babylonian queen, the Babylonian version of Isis in the Trinity. So you have God the Father, the Son, and the blood. Okay, in the Christian, the Holy Spirit taking the place of the feminine, of course, in that Trinity. But you have the Egyptian Trinity of Osiris, Father, Isis, the mother, and Horus, the divine child. In Babylon, you had the same that Nimrod, the father, creator, God. You had the son, which was Tammuz, depicted here in this culture. So this is a depiction of her on an ancient plane, holding the cross of the sun, and a version of the chalice, which could also be seen as a torch. So you have Sirius depicted the rays of the sun reflected from the moon. She is the moon goddess, illuminated, the queen of heaven. She's holding the torch of awareness, of liberty, of freedom, of enlightenment. You see it on the back of old American dollars. You see it in Columbia Pictures logo. You see it on Amoco's gas company logo. So the dove. So the dove is moon goddess is depicted as being a crescent, a white crescent moon. White crescent moon, as it makes its trek across the sky, looks like a dove, a white bird. So you could imagine this piece as the wings as the crescent moon, and it's making its trek across the sky at night. So this is why it was associated. The bird, the dove, is a lunar feminine goddess, just like the falcon was associated with the male solar god. And the dove in the French language is columbe, C-O-L-U-M-B-E, columbe. This is why we have so many usages of the word Columbia or Columbus in American symbology. The founder of the country, named after the dove, his name was actually Cristobal Colon, and he was a member of a secret society network. Here you see him giving a secret society hand gesture in this painting. But he was renamed Columbus after the goddess Columbia. See, it's the feminine goddess named after the dove, Columbe. We have the district of Columbia, the capital, where the male energy of male power is rooted in the United States. And look where it's named between Maryland and Virginia. Mary land, named after the goddess of the Christian Trinity, Mary, and the Virgin. In between the two feminine states named after the goddess, you have the male phallic symbol of power, also taking the name of the goddess. This is a symbolic rape, if you ask me. Placing the phallic symbol directly in a slot of concentrated, centralized power between the two feminine states of Maryland and Virginia. Here we see the goddess depicted on Columbia pictures. You have Columbia Records, Columbia Broadcasting, Columbia University, with this symbology of Columbia University, with ones representing the 3 blue lodge degrees, with the square of base consciousness depicted there as well. But we have to understand, again, that the goddess represents the intuitive side of our consciousness. It represents conscience, the ability to know right from wrong, and it's a protector energy. It is also the aspect that gives birth to the male principle, the savior of the world, in neocortex. Mary, the sacred feminine, the limbic brain, the of heaven, she's giving birth to the immaculate Jesus, the savior of the world. She is standing on top of the serpent here, the reptile. She's conquering the R complex, the limbic brain where emotion is born. Okay? When we listen to intuition and listen to our inborn knowledge, right and wrong, we conquer the reptile aspect of ourselves and we give birth to the son of the Godhead. And here you see the dove head, and here you see the stars depicting the 12 houses of the zodiac. In this image is even more clear how she is a feminine protector, the queen of heaven, the rays of the sun, is wearing the dark cloak of the heaven, the dark cloak with the stars embedded in it. She's queen of heaven. You have the crest, she's the moon god, the inner child. She's giving birth to the male savior figure, the neocortex, the divine child, the son Jesus. And she holds the brain, holds the complex, deep connection with it, and we get to our intuitive side and we care. That's where conscience is born from. Capture of the torch of freedom and liberty, because we have to get in touch with that sacred feminine side of ourselves in order to truly bear conscience and freedom into the world. Here we see in the modern Christian Trinity, the goddess has been removed and replaced with the dove. You have the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit represented as the dove. But there is no divine mother. The feminine has been removed. First, here the moon, because this is a sacrifice. So you have the visa, and it's a symbol of the sacred feminine being used in a depiction of sacrifice. sacrifice of an individual, sacrificing in a monetary sense.
Hey y'all, I apologize for that. I don't know what's going on. Seems like I was noticing that I was going in and out. Can I be heard all right now? Hello, can everyone hear me okay? Okay, we'll try that again. So it seems like it got choppy. You know, we're under a big heat wave and stuff, so I don't know if this is something going on with the Wi-Fi or whatnot, but we'll try again. We don't have much left, but I hope that everybody was able to hear. Mark Passio, this man is one of the best teachers, hands down, on the occult. The man was in it. He was dealing with them. He's a de-occultist. He swore it off and was like, I'm going to reveal everything. His website is called whatishappening.com. He has a YouTube as well, too. Hours and hours of just facts upon facts. And if you want his resources, you can send him on his website. He's got instructions, a 2 terabyte drive, and he will hook you up with almost 50,000 different documents of his research space. He's awesome. What links don't work? They should work. They're YouTube videos. And so what we can do here is that I will, number one, what you may want to just do is feel free to contact me. And I can share with you all the presentation and stuff. And so that's not a problem at all. It's really not for wanting to know here truth. No apologies. Okay, good deal. You know, I'm happy to share forward my presentation so that you all have all the links and the resources in it. It's of what'shappening.com. Yep, what'shappening.com. I've got a whatishappening.com. And let me go ahead and put that into this. Use this one. All right, I'm going to go ahead and go back. There you go. Use this one. Yep, what'shappening.com. My apologies. I'm hoping that we don't have any more issues and stuff, and nothing's going on with the Wi-Fi. Go to entire screen. We've got system audio again. Oh, we want to do War on the Divine. Okay, here we go. Oh, here we go. Share. And thank you again for your patience. And so were you able to understand, were you able to hear him discuss about how dove, the originally name for dove is Kolum, which is representation of divine feminine, which is what DC is. DC, before it became the district of DC, was the territory of Columbia. And that Columbia name, Christopher Columbus, it's the dove, which is a representation of female. Were you all able to hear that piece all right, clearly? Or because I want to ask if I need to rewind it a little bit more. Okay, you did hear that. Great. Let me rewind it just a little bit. Okay, perfect. I'll do just a little bit so that we can jump right in.
How the goddess symbology is used when we look at things. I'll do this one since it's lighter. First, you have here the moon and the dove, because this is a sacrifice of how we use money through credit, building up debt. So you have the moon sacrificing in a monetary sense, sacrifice, because human sacrifice is still very real, very actively practiced in the world. It just isn't the practice of carrying people up a pyramid as how it was done in the past, or sacrificing them upon an altar with an obsidian blade or a dagger of some sort. Now, human sacrifice is carried out with the knowledge of everyone around us, and it is done willingly. People go off to sacrifice others and themselves in the act of war. War is modern day human sacrifice. And here you see the goddess with her wings depicted on a war memorial. And see, this is the goddess conscience, the protector, the grand architect of every experience is care.
It keeps going in and out and stuff. Are you all still hearing the audio, or is the audio stopping as well too? Man. I've stopped the video for the second just to see, because I'm seeing on the screen that it's like going in and out. Are you all experiencing the video stopping and reappearing on your end as well too? It's stopping. Okay. Well, man, we'll see if we can. There's a little bit more to get to here. Maybe what I'll do is I won't do full screen. I was trying to turn off my camera, so at least my computer, because let's see, audio stopping as well. Yeah, I saw that, Iyashima. And so let me see if I can, this may do a little bit better, because if not, what I can do is this, I'll finish up with the rest of the PowerPoint, send you off with the videos. And as you can see, here it is. It's War on the Divine Feminine, Third Eye Perspective, 1111. You can do a YouTube search and you'll pick up on it and stuff. And so you'll be able to watch this on your own accord. But what he said here was really kind of key about the District of Columbia. And what he's discussing is that, you know, a lot of times the goddess archetype has been shown in conjunction that, oh, there were sacrifices to her. But what he was saying is that the dark occultists, what they do is it's the cremation of care. When they're doing the sacrifice and they have the goddess imagery, you know, next to it, they're sacrificing the goddess. Essentially, they're sacrificing the empathy so that they can be full-blown sociopaths and psychopaths, which we see going on. And so let me see if this trick of not keeping it at this size and not going full screen may help make it a little bit easier to watch.
Depicted in conjunction with sacrifice is because they are sacrificing the goddess within an individual. It is the cremation of care, conscience, the protector, the grand architect of everything we experience is care. So this is the goddess herself depicted as being with these men as they are sacrificed along with the goddess. That's what war is. It's a ritual sacrifice of the sacred feminine in an act of sacrifice, of human sacrifice. So another use of the sacred feminine symbology and imagery when it comes to human sacrifice rituals or attempted human sacrifice rituals, we see this through different events that have played out, that have the sacred feminine or the name of the sacred feminine embedded or encoded within the ritual or the scenario. You have the murder of Princess Diana, which I do not believe was an accident. I believe she was taken out because of her connections with the royalty of Britain, and her name was Diana, a Roman name for the goddess Diana. We saw the Superdome incident where thousands and thousands of people were hoarded into this dome looking like a feminine breast and left there without supplies, essentially to die. And FEMA did not get to this region for days after Katrina hit. And the conditions in there were horrendous. I believe that is a deliberately designed thing that was done to try to maximize the amount of death and suffering that happened in that feminine breast, the Superdome, a symbolic representation of a breast. And the two large school shooting incidences could be seen as very clear examples of mind control, of trauma-based mind control, or at Columbine High School, again, Columbia, Colum, the dove, Columbine, and Virginia Tech, the Virgin, Virginia. Again, two names of the goddess. Again, human sacrifice rituals in disguise made to look like totally disconnected incidents. But perhaps the clearest example of human sacrifice in concealed ritual of all is the symbolic burning or immolation of the Columbia Space Shuttle. Again, the Columbia, named after the goddess, Columbia, Colum, the dove. And it's a white dove. And it's burning up, being immolated as it re-enters the Earth's atmosphere. When we see the crew was a 7-member crew. And that's correlating to the 7 planetary bodies of astrotheology. You have the 5 male gods, 5 men in the crew. You have the Sun, Mercury, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. And the 2 feminine heavenly bodies, you have Venus and the Moon. So the 7 principles of astrotheology are encoded there in the crew of the Columbia, another ritual of human sacrifice. The next symbol that I'm going to discuss is the fasci. This is where the word fascism comes from. It is the axe surrounded by the bundle of rods. This is a Roman symbol that represents centralized authority. It is the central authority is the axe, and then the satellite regions, the satellite states are the bundles, the rods bundled by the central Roman authority, the fasci. This is where the word fascism comes from. We see this in multiple areas when it comes to political symbology. It is on the 2 sides of the Senate chamber, the House chamber. It is on the fasci is depicted on the throne that Abraham Lincoln sits upon as a dominator, father figure, God figure. So he's holding both compartments of power, the church in one hand and the state in the other, because an absolute ruler must unify those 2 principles. It must unify political and spiritual power into one. And the regime that really attempted to do that in the modern world was the Third Reich. And here you see the Roman fasci symbol as the symbol of the Third Reich used on one of their postage stamps. We had it previously on the back of old American dimes. Now I'm going to talk about Freemasonic symbology. And I want people to understand that Freemasonry in and of itself is not an evil ideology. Again, it is an occult system of knowledge that can be used for good, or it can be used for ill or manipulation, depending on who is wielding that knowledge. So this is the Freemasonic compasses and square with the letter G in the middle as depicted in American Freemasonry. The compasses represent higher consciousness, and they represent morality, proper moral action. The square represents base consciousness, which must be ruled by our compassion and must be ruled by our moral uprightness. The square is base consciousness. It can be seen as the reptile brain. If you look at these 3 components as the 3 complexes of the brain, okay, you have the R complex being the square. You have the neocortex with its 2 hemispheres being the compasses, and you have the midbrain, that which gives birth to the conscience, care, as the G in the middle of the 2. It represents the goddess, the grand architect of the universe, which is care. Okay, that's what creates our experience, what we care about. And if we get into touch with conscience, it can give birth to proper moral action. But we can only do that by getting in touch with the grand architect of the universe, the God principle, the sacred within us. And that is how to get off of the square and onto the compass. See, the square traces a shape that is a square with 90-degree angles, not found in nature, rough edges. The circle traces the symbol of perfection in ancient systems of occult knowledge. The circle is perfect, it is unbroken. It is a symbol of divinity. It can never be nailed down with perfection because it is based upon pi, a figure that is a divine principle that can never be calculated with absolute certainty. So the object is to circle the square and have our compassion and our higher consciousness rule over our lower instincts and our animal instincts. And we do that through getting in touch with the care principle, the generative principle, the G, which is the grand architect of the universe, care, conscience. So it's about moral uprightness, and it can be equally seen by dark builders, by dark masons, to represent quite an opposite. This is how symbolism is in the eye of the beholder, and how the wielder of this symbol determines what it's really being used for based on their level of consciousness. So a dark mason, a rogue mason, a dark builder, so to speak, could see the symbol this way. Man is ignorant. He exists in base consciousness, and I, as one who has perfected myself, have the divine right to rule over the base man, the square, he who is on the square. So it's two different interpretations of the same symbol, one seen in a positive connotation and one seen in a manipulative negative connotation, depending on the eye of the beholder, of the wielder of the symbol. Here's how this has been used in popular culture. In some of these examples, it's subversive. In some, it could be seen as an uplifting symbol. But generally in education, you'll see the square used and the three symbols and the color blue for the square representing the blue lodges. And this is base consciousness. This is the base of the pyramid of this particular secret society network, the hierarchical pyramid-like structure. And you're seeing the pyramid encoded here, but through the square. And the three base levels of Freemasonry, the entered apprentice, the fellow craft, and the master mason, being the three introductory or initiatory degrees of what is known as the Blue Lodge in American Freemasonry. And this is as far as many go, and it is often the degrees that are said to keep knowledge of higher levels suppressed for those really in the know of the order do not wish for those people to receive the knowledge because they have been gauged as really still being in base consciousness. And you're seeing that depicted in educational logos there, this Columbia University and that the University of Pennsylvania's shield. Here we see the compasses tracing the semicircle on the patch for the Columbia Space Shuttle mission. And one of my favorites in encoding the compass and square of Freemasonry is the game of baseball, a game I've personally resonated with. But we see the compasses encoded by the foul lines here, okay, that make up first and third base. The bases form the square for the individuals in base consciousness, on the square, the basemen, okay, they're the basemen. And the middle here, the mound of creation, the primordial mound, is the limbic brain, the generative principle, the feminine aspect that throws the feminine seed into play. The intuitive principle of the limbic brain, giving information to us, and it is up to us here at the place where the feminine instinct is being given to make contact with it with the male principle, or in other words, to put it into action with the phallic symbol. You're uniting the male, the bat, and the female, the ball, and putting the feminine aspect of truth into play in the field of consciousness to get it past the base men and to make the journey from base consciousness to higher consciousness to get home. The game of baseball is completely Masonically designed. I don't see that as a negative influence. I'm just pointing out an example of how that symbology is used in the game of baseball. I personally look at that as a positive understanding. The picture being the feminine aspect, care, the grand architect of the game. So in these examples, I do see it as subversive. In this one, of course, the compass is used here on this logo from NASA, but we know what happened with that mission. So could be a illusion that dark Masonic elements may have been in control of that particular sacrifice. Who knows? The game of baseball, clearly Masonically designed. I look at that as a positive connotation of the symbolism.
And thank you for your patience as we go through the difficulties. And so Mark, he on his website and stuff, he has his podcasts. He encourages everyone to start with podcast 1. There's over 200 different episodes where he breaks down all of the symbology, because again, human culture is about archetypes and symbols and stuff. This man is, again, very generous. He is from an anarchist background. And that's because he believes that we should be, again, learn and become fully conscious. And as being conscious beings, then we do not have to have kind of rules and laws and stuff. And so this next video, let me actually get into my presentation, which I think that, yes, I can pull up. Excellent. And so again, what we're focusing on here, that video was on Mark Passio explains subversive occult symbolism, right? And so he talked about Columbia's making, and I want to, if you want evidence on what he was talking about, I would love to introduce you to Benjamin Banneker. Benjamin Banneker, the astronomer, mapped out DC using the Polaris, the North Star, and Jupiter. And so he utilized the North Star, I think, is for latitude, and then longitude. I may be mixing those two up, but that's essentially what he did. And Benjamin Banneker was born right next door in Baltimore County. And he was an astronomer. He made some of the first almanacs that were very accurate. And he was appointed by Jefferson, Thomas Jefferson, in 1791 to work with Pierre L'Enfant, who was the kind of architect, and Andrew Alcott, who was one of the surveyors. He worked as a surveyor to plan the federal city in the territory of Columbia. He's kin 40, the yellow magnetic sun. Benjamin Banneker, there is a Benjamin Banneker Historical Park and Museum. There is, I'll get to it in a moment, because there is a very little monument for Benjamin Banneker near L'Enfant Plaza, which is very well known, metro stop in DC. But it's what they left in his legacy was just really kind of pitiful, because this man, Benjamin Banneker, mapped the cosmos. So up here, L'Enfant was working, to map out and survey and stuff, and he was the one reading the stars and stuff for the layout of DC. And I will share with you the field trip that you can engage on, which I've done twice, to actually get all of this information and see just how much Egypt was a part, and the Masonic symbology, how much Egypt and the Nile Valley was a part of the design and architecture, right? Because they want to take the best of the best, which came from Africa, and they mapped it out here on to create DC and to create it in the way that it is to be a place of power. This right here, I won't get into it, but this is the Benjamin Banneker Historical Park. This is a plaque talking about Benjamin Banneker. His father, it commemorates Robert Banneker, the colonial African-American father and farmer. He purchased this historic land in 1737. He purchased with the sale of 7,000 pounds of tobacco. Robert was from Guinea, present-day Ghana, Nigeria region of Africa, where he had been abducted, enslaved, and then sold in the colony of Maryland. When he granted his freedom, he married Mary Banneker, eldest daughter of Banneker, a former slave who was originally an African prince, and Molly Welsh, a former English milkmaid. This site was Robert and Mary Banneker's second farm. Their first was Timber Point, a 25-acre lot in the vicinity of Elk Ridge. A highly skilled farmer, Robert's tobacco profits were there enabled him to buy this 100-acre parcel of the Richard Gist estate, known as Stout, providing a larger homestead for his growing family. The original parcel, varied in terrain and rich in natural resources, extended across the national road to the Patapsco River. Robert Banneker included the name of his then 6-year-old son, Benjamin, on the deed of sale, thus securing the freedom of his children into perpetuity. Robert Banneker worked and developed the farmstead until his death in 1759. Then the property passed on to his son, Benjamin Banneker, a renowned author, astronomer, and surveyor of the federal territory. The foresight, ingenuity, and hard work of Robert Banneker is the founding origin of the Benjamin Banneker Historical Park. So this park is on the land that his father owned. I was just amazed. I was looking at where it was. And so I wanted to share that. So this is who Benjamin Banneker was. He never had children and he never married. He ended up dying at the age of 75, and he got destitute. He ended up having to kind of sell some of his land and stuff like that. But I mean, what an amazing contribution. I'm glad that there's a really beautiful park and museum that is in Maryland honoring him, and actually is right down the road from where he's buried at an AME church. And so he's the Kin 40 yellow magnetic sun. He unified in order to enlighten, attracting life. He sealed the matrix of universal fire with the magnetic tone of purpose. He was guided by his own power doubled. And so just an amazing individual. And if you all would like to learn about the Masonic, information that went into creating the entirety of the District of Columbia, I really recommend the Egypt on the Potomac field trip. And this is from Dr. Anthony Browder. It's sponsored by the IKG Cultural Resource Center and was created by him. There's a facilitator guide, which is participants, a facilitator guides participants to understand the story of DC's history that has been in plain sight. And that history is that the Nile Valley culture is embedded throughout the Washington, D.C. You'll explore ancient Egyptian influences and architecture, symbolism in the city's planning, intentionally woven into the city's design by the America's founding fathers. It's the first Saturday of every month, and it runs from April to November. And there's two tours and stuff. There's a morning tour at 10 a.m. and then there is a tour at 2 p.m., which you did. I've been able to go on twice, and it's absolutely fascinating. So when I was seeing what Mark was saying about Columbia, I was like, oh, I have to share this with you all. I have to share this with you. And what I wanted to say is that it's just it's like a little small little just circle enclosure. There's like a circle enclosure. There's like a little green space, and that's the Benjamin Banneker Park. And so even in death, they were saying, Thomas Jefferson definitely, like put him on and made him a part of this project. But he started, I guess Jefferson, what he was doing to Sally Hemings probably conflicted him, but he was on the train of like, yes, man, like color doesn't make the man. Then he started backtracking as he got older and stuff, and like kind of distanced himself from Benjamin Banneker, because him coming up was like a real big hoo-ha. And so there's one more piece, and so let me exit this, and I'm going to go back, and this is the last video. It's only about 7 minutes that we're going to listen to of this, but I will say it with a caveat. This is what is happening.com. It's not .org. And so definitely there. And so this is, again, this man has hours upon hours of videos where he breaks things down. It's called the ARC, which is like this is the ARC drive that I made mention, that if you wanted to give him a 2 terabyte drive, you can actually get all of his stuff. It's called the Amazing Repository of Knowledge and stuff. He's done all this free. Now, if you do go on his YouTube, he is a little bit ornery because he's not happy that, folks have not evolved and not taken into, really kind of, embodied the information they shared and make good use of it and stuff. And he's been, so I just want to warn y'all, he likes to curse up a storm. And in his favorite, his line, you can get as offended as you like, because even though this may sound far-fetched for you in regards to that, we've got people doing this, the fact is that there are people who believe in this and they act upon it. And this right here video, which we're just going to look at like 7 minutes of it. This is a part of a lecture called The Cult of Ultimate Evil, Order Followers, and the Destruction of the Sacred Feminine. So I will say that it is critical of military and law enforcement, and where he's coming from is the law of cause and effect, because the karma falls on those who carries out the orders. And if they're immoral orders, which again is what we're seeing. I don't know if you saw in California, we had people who, there's police officers who ended up kneeling and standing in solidarity with the protesters out in California and stuff. And then there was people trying to appeal to the National Guard as well too. And so this is, again, all what I see aspects of the divine masculine, because to follow orders blindly, right, and not question them and stuff results in creating harm, which goes against. So he is a student of natural law. We we are students of natural time. And so he does shares a lot of information about Hermetic principles. And again, talking about the lost principle as being that care element. And so he's going to talk a little bit about that piece. But what was so interesting is that I'm part of a Facebook group called the Hub Zero, which is the extension of the knowledge book. And lo and behold, they posted this morning, as I was putting together the last finishing touches of this presentation for you, they shared a post, cause and effect reflection mechanism. As of yesterday, June 21st, with the activation of a new algorithm, the law of cause and effect has been enhanced and formally integrated as a fundamental and binding law at the planetary level. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the knowledge book, it's the Galactic Constitution. And so it also pieces together all of the Abrahamic holy books and stuff, but it provides a universal perspective to it. It's really quite a profound book. This algorithm represents a significant upgrade in the integration of the law, enabling more efficient and precise processing of all thoughts, actions, and energetic emissions within the shared information field. The system does not pass judgment. It responds objectively based on the clear and immutable data. Cause is your emission. Effect is the law's response, the cosmic law's response. From this moment forward, all events on Earth, personal, social, natural, and geopolitical, are governed by this enhanced law. There are no privileged or chosen nations, individuals, or alliances. The law applies equally to all without exception of privilege. Within this law, the new algorithm has activated a protocol that automatically records, analyzes, and reflects every input into the system without the possibility of external interference or disruption. All data is processed and returned with the highest degree of precision according to the frequency and intent of each input. The interval between cause and effect is now significantly shortened. Just as with the leap year, we had a quickening of time. Now we have a quickening of time when it comes to the cause and the effects of what we put in place. So this is a message for all of us. Responsibility and awareness have become the foundational pillars of stability. The system does not watch, it reflects. And so I was fascinated to see that they had posted that, and I wasn't anticipating it. And so one thing with this video with Mark, he's not rude and stuff, but he's very clear, and he actually incorporates people who ended up, leaving the military and stuff and then doing other things, right, and stuff because they could see what it is. And so I just wanted to play a little bit of this. It's just 7 minutes and we close out. And again, I recognize that we've been on here a long time, but the replay is for you. If you need to take a break, that's all right. The replay is here for you. And if you have any questions, do not hesitate to reach out. And again, I thank you for your patience and your time on this beautiful day, but we'll get right into it.
Two former order followers have communicated to me that it was directly because of the information I put out regarding natural law and morality that they quit the cult of ultimate evil. We need the return of the sacred feminine energy, which is the dynamic of true care, nurturing, and compassion. Last year, 2 years ago at the Free Your Mind conference back in 2013, I gave a lecture called New Age Bullshit and the Suppression of the Sacred Masculine, which is about how the New Age religions ultimately want to create a dynamic of not taking action, of suppressing the masculine, the sacred masculine dynamics of the personality. What this lecture is all about are the forces that are trying to suppress the sacred feminine aspect of the consciousness and personality. The sacred feminine, or the lost principle, as I refer to it, is the dynamic of care. What we care about on a day-to-day basis acts as the driving force of our thoughts and, most importantly, the driving force of our actions. Therefore, care can be seen as the ultimate generator of the quality of our experience. This principle has been often referred to as the generative principle, the creative principle. The word generative is derived from the Latin verb generare, which means to create. What we care enough to put our will behind, what we use the sacred feminine care enough to put our will behind, the sacred masculine action of will, dynamic of will, is what ultimately gets created in our world. This is the real law of attraction, the real law of manifestation. The world is the way that it is today, sadly, because most people do not care enough, even if they say they want things to be different, to change the world through their actions. This is why the dark occult, the cult of ultimate evil, the order givers of the cult of ultimate evil engage in a ceremony yearly, a symbolic ceremony called the cremation of care, immolating care symbolically. And their order followers continue to do it right here in the real world, not the symbolic world, the very real world of behaviors. There's two principles that constitute enlightenment, and we need to engage both of them if we're going to see the return of both the sacred masculine and the sacred feminine non-aggression through their actions. This is why the dark occult, the cult of ultimate evil, the order givers of the cult of ultimate evil engage in a ceremony yearly, a symbolic ceremony called the cremation of care, immolating care symbolically. And their order followers continue to do it right here in the real world, not the symbolic world, the very real world of behaviors. There's two principles that constitute enlightenment, and we need to engage both of them if we're going to see the return of both the sacred masculine and the sacred feminine. The sacred feminine principle is the principle of non-aggression, the non-aggression principle. The first pillar of enlightenment is this sacred feminine principle, is also called the non-aggression principle. It states, very simply, do not engage in violence. Violence is the immoral initiation of undue physical force, which one does not have the right to take against their fellow being. In other words, do not immorally initiate non-rightful use of physical power to coerce, constrain, or compel the rightful physical behavior or free will choice of other sentient beings. Don't engage in violence. Along with that, wedded to that, in union, in sacred union with that, is the sacred masculine principle of self-defense, which I talked a lot about at last for your mind too. The second pillar of enlightenment is the sacred masculine principle, also called the self-defense principle. This principle states sentient beings have the inherent right to use force to defend themselves from violence conducted upon them by another. Never to initiate that force, but to use it in response to violence that has been waged against them in proportion to that violence. That's the sacred masculine principle of self-defense. True enlightenment is the sacred union of both of these principles, the sacred feminine principle of non-aggression combined with and wed to the sacred masculine principle of self-defense. Only when we create that sacred union between the sacred masculine and sacred feminine within each of us are we going to see real world change happen. This is the alchemical wedding, as it has been referred to as, and it's beautifully, symbolically depicted here on the tarot card, the Lovers. Once again, I just want to reiterate the powerful role, especially that women can play in this sacred union of bringing forward the care and the compassion to help transmute the consciousness and the mindset of the order followers. Because let's face it, these order followers who are really bringing this harm into manifestation are largely men doing the bidding of their cult leaders. Okay, it just happens to be men are the physically stronger of the genders here on earth of our species, and therefore they're groomed for that role, the out of control masculine aspect, the dark masculine aspect. But women can play the powerful role of transformers if they step into that courage and they challenge the cult of ultimate evil, challenge its validity. On its face, it needs to be challenged. It needs to be recognized as inherently illegitimate authority in government and the violence that they conduct. So women can help men who are involved in that cult to break free if they step into that courage and they step into that sacred feminine dynamic. Then that sacred feminine energy can drive the sacred masculine energy, because care ultimately has to drive the will. This is what was meant by the phrase, love is the law, love under will. Love has to be the foundation. Higher consciousness has to be the foundation upon which you build the sacred masculine will. So the sacred feminine has to be the foundation. That's true care. Then you could build the true will, the sacred masculine dynamic upon that foundation, that sacred feminine dynamic of love. The sacred feminine drives the sacred masculine action. And how ultimately the cult followers, the order followers of the cult of ultimate evil are going to have to break their mental bondage is through the use of the lost word. A very powerful concept in my work, which comes from the esoteric tradition of Freemasonry, as I will describe here. The lost word is a concept in esoteric Freemasonry, which represents a state of consciousness that has been largely lost to the majority of human beings. In order to speak the so-called lost word, A human being must work upon themselves in order to achieve a state of non-contradiction between their thoughts, emotions, and actions. In such a state of unity consciousness, that being has truly come to understand the self and the working operations of natural law, moral law. And in doing so, they've deeply realized the objective difference between right and wrong action, or as these concepts are referred to in Freemasonry, light and darkness, respectively. Light is truth and right action, and darkness in Freemasonry is ignorance and wrong action. And I'll just go back a slide. You'll notice the G, okay? The G stands for the generative principle, the sacred feminine principle that has to drive right action. The compasses, compassion, has to circumscribe our behavior, be the actual boundary conditions through which we operate in the world. Beautiful symbolic allegory if Freemasonry is properly understood. In the enlightened state of consciousness that is generated through the knowledge of natural law, conscience in other words, a human being is finally able to step up and speak the lost word, which is no. No is the lost word. No is the word of all power. We reclaim all of our power as sovereign beings when we say no to evil, when we say no to authority, when we say no to someone who is trying to tell us what to do against our better judgment and against what we know to be right. Okay? Only when we say no to those who would claim to be our owners, to those who would claim that it is they who will decide which rights we have or do not have, do we stop externalizing our power to anyone outside of ourselves, and in doing so, reclaim all of our natural rights. Sadly, very, very few people in our world have the knowledge, the care, and most importantly, the courage that is required to do this. That's the courage that the order follower currently lacks. They can only develop that courage to get out of the cult through the lost word of saying no to evil. Unfortunately, since so many lack that courage, that is why the all-powerful lost word is considered lost to humanity. But we can reclaim it. We can reclaim it through the knowledge of our rights, through the knowledge of right versus wrong behavior. Those who don't know will never say no to evil. See, the lost word is not only no, N-O, but it is also know, K-N-O-W. Knowledge is the transformer that we need to use to change the modality of consciousness that the order followers are in. When we know the difference between right and wrong through conscience, then we will step up and say no to evil. That is my recommendation to the order followers. You know, this is an internet meme I found. Just say no to gangs. I couldn't have said it any better, or maybe I could have. What they need to do is just say no to cults. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the principles that I personally live my life by is never give someone else advice that you haven't followed yourself. Well, you know what, ladies and gentlemen? I'm about to give some really important advice to all the order followers out there today. And I can do it because I followed that advice and I already did it. Quit your cult. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your kind attention.
And so, you know, of course, there's different, he's just very clear and concise, and I really appreciate it. And this was done 10 years ago, which is just interesting, and seeing the way that the police and ICE are being weaponized in the way that they are and stuff. For me, I just thought that it resonated very much so with the conversation. There's, of course, different ways of, I am not in any way, shape, or form, advocating for women sacrificing themselves, but he was speaking specifically to like the wives and the mothers and the sisters of those who are in these professions. And, part of it, because unfortunately, even if there's like good intentions and they try to do work, good work in those positions and stuff, right now, what we're seeing is that, they're expected to command and control. And so they could be put in very precarious positions where they're going to have to act immorally. And unfortunately, the karma stays with them. And so it's a very good, he lays out, he talks about, there's examples of others who've kind of had their own kind of realization as well too and stuff. And so I really encourage anyone who resonates with that to share that video. It's actually been viewed over 237,000 times. And so it's obviously resonated with a lot of people. So the question as we land the plane and close out, that I ask all of you is, engage in the divine feminine as we are coming into the yellow resonant seed about generating more care. What intention, prayer, practice, vision, or action can you do to I'm sorry, not this was a last minute slide that I was doing and stuff in between the introductions that should be put. So I'll change that for anybody who wants the slide. What intention, prayer, practice, vision, or action can you do to put more care and love out to the earth? What intention, prayer, practice, vision, or action can you do to put more care and love out to the global community? What intention, prayer, practice, or vision, action can you do to put more care and love out to your family and loved ones? And what intention, prayer, practice, vision, or action can you do to put more care and love out to your family and loved ones? Well, this should be, and so my bad, I messed up on this slide. I'll take that, but take the meat and throw out and spit out the errors here and stuff. My apologies for that. But, that's what I want to leave us here with as we're in this time where we get to create New Year's resolutions, right? We also have the opportunity to align ourselves with this new energy that's coming in with this new solar cycle. And so the last piece, this is from Dr. Jewel Pookrum, introduced me to this book. She had us do it in our class, our brain balancing class. The book is called The Contact Has Begun. It's the true story of journalists' encounter with alien beings by Philip H. Craft. He was a journalist at the LA Times for a number of years and ended up having a very amazing encounter where essentially he was being supported as being an ambassador with our extraterrestrial brothers and sisters, which there are plenty of discussion. We're going to see more disclosure coming through Dr. Stephen Greer, the Disclosure Project. The National Press Club came out just a couple of years ago with over 750 whistleblowers who have been talking about the black budget projects. This is a reason why the Pentagon, we cannot account for over 60% of their budget because it's going into black budget sites. And these have been here since the 1950s and stuff, where we've got companies, Lockheed, Northrop Grumman and stuff, and all these military industrial complexes who are reverse engineering craft and then using it against the American people. We had 750 whistleblowers come to the National Press Club to tell their stories, and they're being represented by over 50 lawyers, right? And so this is real. We've had exposés on News Nation, people coming out because, at this particular point, and especially with the result, what's happening, so we're going to need some outside intervention because of the level of consciousness on the planet. And so this is what they have to say about this. So this was a conversation between Philip and Verdant, which is like they're 10,000 years older than us. And they're very advanced, and they're watching. They're part of the Watchers group. But this Verdant's name is Gus. So now you're facing an enemy that is as intelligent as you, but he has a weapon and you have none. Doesn't that put you at a disadvantage? A contradiction in terms, Gus replied. Species resort to war and conflict when they lack the intellect to resolve their differences through peaceful means, Gus told me. Once absolute intelligence, which we have access through studying the law of time, is achieved, use of force to settle disputes is out of the question because it is a tool of the ignorant and the inferior. Therefore, it is impossible to meet a warlike species with absolute intelligence. The two qualities are mutually exclusive. That is, if a species is warlike, it has not achieved absolute intelligence. If it has achieved absolute intelligence, it cannot be warlike, Gus explained. There's more. This, for me, any claims to supremacy and all that stuff are just dead in the water for me right now. It's all a ruse. And so this is the other part of the conversation. The greatest stumbling block that humankind, this is Gus speaking, the greatest stumbling block that humankind faces in its transition to a society of star travelers will be dealing with and overcoming that element of society that has traditionally dealt in violence and that has the most to lose when swords are beaten into plowshares, Gus said. In this group, he included arms manufacturers and dealers and petty tyrants who will be dethroned, because right now we see that the law of karma, cause and effect and stuff has sped up. There's going to be consequences on site, which I'm excited, but also we have to heed the warning for our own behaviors. So when contact has been firmly made, social and cultural changes will begin taking effect, and it is anticipated that the vast numbers of peace-loving people throughout the world will begin dismantling military forces as one of the first orders of business. If no weapons are allowed in space, there will become most likely a concurrent intolerance for devices of destruction on Earth. Those who can be expected to resist any change in the status quo will be authoritarian and dangerous people, the majority of them males, whose power bases are threatened as the forces of peace sweep the world. But Gus offered a prediction. Isolated from the interplanetary community, the brutes of the world will also become increasingly isolated on Earth. Eventually, they will no longer be any match for their more peaceful brethren, who will become overwhelmingly empowered as they take their place in the Federation of Star Travelers. And then this is Philip. It was an encouraging thought. And so with that, I'm going to, again, thank you so much for your time. These are the resources. Feel free. I am available at ALCIONE at synchronistichuman.com. If you would like a copy of this presentation, albeit corrected. Again, thank you so much. And you all have a great rest of your week, and, peace and many blessings. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
eternal.